What is happening out there, Roto Scouts baseball fans? Had to stop and look down real quick there, make sure the microphone was on. Key detail in starting a show. You guys have seen me start on mute before. Trying not to let that happen. Keep a professional atmosphere as we get rolling here on a Tuesday and our return to action after a couple days off. No show Friday, no show yesterday. I was hoping to get back yesterday, but did the parents a favor by saying, yeah, it makes more sense to go home tomorrow morning instead of forcing it at the end of the day on Monday, fighting the traffic and the weather for that World Cup game that was taking place at Giant Stadium. If you guys didn't see, the Norway fans are great. Doing their Viking row through Times Square, occupying the subway in Manhattan, sitting all down the aisle doing the Viking row. Cool stuff. There's all kinds of fun stuff with the World Cup, the celebrations, the different fan bases. All sorts of fun stuff going on. But yeah, we were out for a couple days. Had to go down to Mom and Dad's. Thank you to them for the ride back and forth and everything. And we took Joker to the vet on Monday, which went well. As good as can be expected. So good news there. Hanging on, doing well. And celebrated multiple birthdays and my niece's graduation from grammar school over the weekend. So busy weekend. Nice time at my sister's place. Hopefully you guys did well. Hopefully the weekends were profitable. We did have full projections through the weekend, as always. I tallied up our little contest. We'll get started with that. If you haven't been around, Home Run Picks contest ongoing. Win yourself a free month of content at Roto Scouts. You can take it now. You can take it later in the year when multiple sports are going. We cover all four major sports here for under $1 a day. Every single main slate. Lot of the side slates, early slates, late slates, even when they're split. 2 slates on FanDuel, 1 slate on DraftKings, covering half the games and 3/4 of the games. It's just a total mess. But we try and cover as much bonus content as we can for baseball. Football, every single game is covered. Full projections, tons and tons of deep content. I do a big article deep dive. Try and do shows during the week. So if you want to get behind the scenes at Roto Scouts, there's multiple free paths to doing it. One, you could win the Home Run Picks contest. Joker's excited about it. Listen to him. First to 5 wins. The leaderboard's right there on your screen. All right, buddy. That's enough. Go lie down. First to 5 wins. We've got a dead heat. Loyalty Chisel and Cujo. Congratulations so far. Tied at 3. But those home run picks can go cold anytime. So jump in. No time like the present. You can catch up pretty easily in the next best 3-way tie at 1 after totaling up last Wednesday and Thursday's picks. So a lot of room there. The only rules are, again, first to 5 correct picks wins. If there's a tie, there's a tie. You'll both get it. No issues there. Got to use the same YouTube name every day so I don't have to track you across multiple names. 1 pick per person per day has to come from the slate we discussed. So no pick in the 645 games today. Only the games, the 9 games that we're going to talk about here on the show. Can't use my home run pick. You only get to use Ohtani and Judge once apiece. Judge is still out. Only limited uses of Ohtani so far. People kind of keeping him in reserve. Loyalty Chisel, one of the 2 leaders at 3, has used his Ohtani pick already. But that's about it for the rules there. The other way to get in, scrolling across the bottom of your screen in just a second, you'll see free week, anytime. Free first week on a weekly plan. We had it open for a while with Cubs fan celebrating his wins. He sponsored a few free weeks for people. And I'm just opening it up for right now. You want to give us a test drive? It's right there on your screen right now. Promo code TRYME at checkout gets you 100% free week on a free first week on a weekly. That renews at regular price. If not, canceled in between. No commitment required, etc., etc., etc. Ping me for details if you have questions. I am highly available. Anyway, let's talk baseball. This is an interesting, fun-looking slate. Excited to get into this one with you guys. I think it makes sense to start on the pitching board for a quick glance. It's a slate that kind of peaks in a really obvious spot, fairly high, fairly expensively, and then really crashes and burns in a lot of these spots. There are quality pitchers throughout and believable spots for guys to succeed throughout at a variety of prices, but I would go so far as to say that none of those prices right there are particularly good, and that's essentially the group of guys I'm talking about. You have an extreme bargain at the top of the board right there on DraftKings, though, with Schoenberg being inexplicably priced at $7,000. He's been good. That's a super gettable Guardian squad. I don't really understand that. You can see he's 8,800 on FanDuel. That's still a pretty nice discount from the top guys. But that's a quality spot and a significant piece of the DraftKings board. I would expect he's going to be ludicrously popular. Robbie Ray might draw the eye, and we'll get back into the stacks board or the pitching board in just a minute. Questioning that spot, though, and the quality of it based on what I'm seeing on the other side of this one, which is quite a few spots for offense, as borne out by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 totals in the upper fours and a 5-8-5 in the Coors Field game. Monster looking slate for offense, a few absolute launching pads showing. I think there's a significant opportunity through those games for like late night hammer approach to this thing. And you can kind of, again, see that that's not exactly a secret just looking at these implied totals. But I'm seeing a lot of upside for offense through those 4 games. Plenty through these, but more through those. And we'll get into that. A lot of that is showing through the home run board. Absolutely killer day. Multiple teams with 3-4 guys above the 10-point mark in the home run model. Let's take a look at this. If it wants to sort, there we go. So on a 9-game day, that's 27 people above the magic number. Yeah, there's a Coors Field game, but they're not exactly dominating that list. A lot of Braves in there, some of the Reds, a lot of Orioles in there. I think they're looking really interesting. Some Athletics in there, some obvious Dodgers. Ohtani standing tall at the top, doubling up the magic number, looking like a good spot if anybody wants to take him in the contest. Wayne Stark, been missing you too, buddy. Appreciate you. Wayne Stark saying, let's get this money. Big bucks, no whammies. 5,000 in the spin. Cap says, Chalk calls, including myself. Duh. Boston, Atlanta, Baltimore, Milwaukee, Chicago Cubs, San Francisco Bats, and pray to the DFS Lord himself. You connected. I'm not entirely in agreement with the San Francisco Bats. We'll take a look at it. Boston, yes. Atlanta, big yes. Baltimore, big yes. Milwaukee looks okay. Perfectly fine. No issues with it. But I don't know how hard I'm going to push that one because that's just a great ballpark situation. Lodolo can be good. Turn off the sounds on my phone. But yeah, I'm in the mix there. That's nothing too crazy. Wayne Stark popped into my notifications today. Awesome. We'll be waiting on the locks. Cool. Glad you finally got the notification thing figured out. All right, let's get into this thing before we waste too much time. Already starting a little bit later than I wanted to in the day. Had to catch up a lot. When I work at my parents' place, I have my laptop, and I don't like overwriting or like making a totally new version. But then I'm a few days behind in some of the stats and some of the updates and everything, some of the, inserting new players for handedness and all of that fun stuff. So had to catch up a few things and lost probably a half hour from where I wanted to get started. But diving into it, that interesting game in Cincinnati, certainly showing plenty of offense there. The only game that's threatened by weather, by the way, looks to be that one. Roth has the Dodgers and Twins as orange, a lot of weather in the area. He seems at least relatively concerned. I suppose that's probably what orange would have told you. But Dodgers obviously looking pretty premium in that one at 4.85. The Twins less relevant, but obviously a team that could connect for a little bit of power. We'll get to that one. Brandon Sproat, Nick Lodolo in this first one. We don't really like either pitcher, but I think Lodolo every now and again finds some quality in this game, even against the Brewers' upside for sequencing. The Brewers check in. The reason I'm saying, good, not great. They're more sequencing. They're more run creation. They obviously have one of the better totals on the board. They're right in the mix with some of those teams. But if I'm looking at some of those, and if I can sneak through on one of those teams that was called out that were called out in the chat, being somewhat lighter owned with the power upside included. The Brewers offer slightly less home run upside, slightly less really big event upside, if that makes sense. But no issues whatsoever getting to them. No issues with the fact that they gave me a 0 in this spot essentially the other day. We'll go back to it. Reds, it's kind of similar. Going up against Sproat, who has been incredibly gettable so far in his major league career. One of the better ballparks for bats just in general. The Reds also get Ellie De La Cruz back by all accounts today. Do we have that lineup confirmed? Let me see here. I don't know if that one came down yet. We do, and he's there. So Ellie, back in your lives, back in your fantasy lineup at 53, at 35, fire away 10.42 on his return, going up against, again, a nothing pitcher who's offering up plenty of power. Ellie offers multi-category contributions as always. So just getting a superstar back in the lineup always is going to boost the team. So 481 implied total for them. They look great. Cubbies at the Mets. As mentioned, don't totally love this Cub spot. Konasenga hasn't been good at all. Has given up multiple home runs in 3 of his 6 starts. There is quality there when he's going right. And as he progresses, you would assume that he pitches deeper into games and gets things a little bit more figured out. Cubs are only pulling a 4.20 implied total. Haven't been exactly killing it throughout the season, up and down kind of a squad. So not exactly standing out on that board. It's also just a cool day in this area. It's like, it's according to my computer screen here, 69 degrees right now. It's also rainy. Just not great hitting conditions. This game rained out yesterday on a different kind of day. But today just doesn't equal great upside for bats. You can see a little of that going the other way. 4.39 implied total for the Mets coming back against Edward Cabrera. Total roller coaster of a pitcher. Some good, some bad. The strikeouts haven't been quite where we wanted them this season. The consistency hasn't been anywhere near where we wanted it. It's given up some power in a lot of these games. Multiple home runs several times on the board. So a targetable enough pitcher on both sides of that one, given the current form for both of these guys. But either one of these guys could find 5 decent enough innings, and Vegas isn't exactly all over this game like it is several other spots on the board. Your prime spot for pitching, you get them both on opposite sides of that Guardians and White Sox game. Again, that's going to be Parker Messick at the very top of your board. Most expensive pitcher on the slate, absolutely earned it. He's been tremendous. And then offset slightly, Sean Burke going back the other way against that weakened and at best up and down Guardians lineup. Very, very gettable upside spots for pitching as reflected by the 2 mid-3s implied total, the 7-run game overall. Either one of these lineups, though, can get frisky. There are a couple quality bats still in both. Top of the White Sox lineup, pretty decent. It's a good mix of players, too, because your correlated scorers can swipe you a bag. Pretty reasonably good at getting on base so far. And you still got the big power bat, Colson Montgomery, in the middle of that lineup. Dodgers and the Twins, as mentioned, a little bit of danger for the rain there. Gets somewhat problematic. It's Justin Wrobleski. Still trying to get that pronunciation right. Got somebody coaching me in the Discord, as you guys probably seen. Enjoying that. I can do it with a lot of flair, but I feel like I sound like I'm making fun of the accent and doing like Count from Sesame Street kind of a voice, and I don't want to offend anybody. So doing the best I can on Wrobleski's name. I'll default back to just mealy mouthing it. He looks pretty good. One of the more expensive options on the board. If that game plays, checking the Twins down at a 3.75 implied total definitely seems appealing. He's had some good spots throughout the season. Overall pitching to a 2.72 ERA, but a 4.38 xFIP is probably more the nature of the beast there. So a little bit of caution is warranted. There is power in that Twins lineup, and they could exceed that 3.75 implied total pretty easily. I would imagine we'll check it again when we get to that game, but I think there's a big spike at the end of the tail on that one. And then the Dodgers are the Dodgers going up against rookie Kendry Rojas. Seems like a gettable spot. He's not exceeded 4 innings on the season. So I think we go to the Dodgers if that game plays with plenty of activity. The Diamondbacks at the Cardinals. It's Erod, one of the more usable pieces on the board. Not anybody that we fully trust, but a guy that we've won with many times over the years. A guy who by and large is pitching well this season. 2.45 ERA on the board, but similarly 4.42 xFIP. That is most certainly, we know well, that's more who Erod is. But 15, pretty good starts so far. Can't take it away from him. Pretty decent upside for at least being competitive for a win. Not a bad spot at all. Going back the other way, his Diamondbacks going against Kyle Leahy. He's found some strikeout recently. 12 Ks over 11 innings in his last 2. Gave up 3 earned runs in 1 against the Pods. Not a great outing against the worst offense in baseball. And then 4 earned runs over 5 against the Twins. Don't love the spot for Leahy, but we'll give him a look at least on a somewhat short pitching slate. We get to Coors Field. We have Sonny Gray on the mound. He's interestingly priced relative to the top of the board. Pitching to a 3.12 ERA, a 3.82 xFIP. Sonny Gray is perfectly playable, in Coors Field, but you know what you're doing there. 10.5 run total in that game. 4.77 going toward the Rockies is not nothing. Sonny's more than good enough to pitch through it and find some strikeout upside against that Rockies lineup. They get Mickey Moniak back in the lineup today at the cost of Carrig. We'll see how they handle that situation going forward. It's Sean Sullivan on the mound. Fire away with Red Sox bats. I expect they'll be incredibly popular at 5.85 implied in Coors Field. But again, there's a lot of quality showing in these next few games. I'm really interested in some Orioles upside bats against Ryan Johnson, who's given up an absolute ton of power so far in the major leagues. 5 home runs over a 13 and a third. 5 home runs to 72 hitters so far this season. Handful more last year. Just very, very targetable so far for power. And the Orioles have plenty of power in that lineup. They have 4 or 5 guys. They're leading the power index. 4 or 5 guys in that Baltimore lineup above the magic number. We'll see it in a little bit. And Shane Baz is on the mound. Another roller coaster of a pitcher. Decent outing last time. Faced Seattle at Seattle. 3 earned runs, 9 strikeouts, 2 walks over 7. Not bad. Nice deep start. He's gone 7 in 3 of his last 5, pitched into the 6th in one other one of those. 6 inning start prior to that stretch, and actually a 7 inning start before that one. So he's working deep into ball games. 89 innings over his 15 starts so far. Working to a 4.04 ERA, a 4.38 xFIP. Not exactly reliable as a run limiter, but as he's priced, as he's pitching deep and compiling some strikeout upside. Couple of 9 strikeout games in his last 5, one against the Rays, one in that one against the Mariners. There's potential to play Baz because there are Ks in that Angels lineup. 4.25 implied total doesn't exactly rocket to the top of this board. The Orioles are the much more interesting upside team in that one. Apparently, though, other people are talking about it. I was hoping we would squeak through with that one. Jarrett Ritchie on the mound for the Braves going up against that low-end Padres team. They're still pulling a 4.24 implied total, shows a bit of the upside. And German Marquez, I think, is more the target in that one. The Braves were the team I was kind of hoping would slide through, maybe 4.35 implied total. I have them ranked way up the stacks board against that 10th overall total. I think they look really, really good against Marquez, who's just been shot for multiple years now, making his first start since May 1st in the show, a couple rehabs in the minors. Nothing to talk about there on the mound. Definitely targetable with Braves bats. Apparently, they're getting some attention, though, around the industry. And then the Athletics and Giants round things out. A couple interesting totals there in that San Francisco park. 9-run ball game, 4.87 going toward the Giants. That's what's pulling some interest in their direction. If they get popular, though, I think there's reasons to potentially look other ways. A lot of up and down bats at best in that lineup. There's guys we like to get to and expect to fully turn it around. Some have already started to. They're going up against Aaron Savali, which is the big talking point. Really low-end starter over the last year plus. 4.91 ERA, 5.19 xFIP so far this season over 58 2/3 in 12 starts. You can definitely get to Giants bats. They're not particularly expensive, I think, so I'll pull the stacks board in a second. We'll take a look at the value marker. But I don't love that offense when there's so many other good ones showing, especially if they end up equally owned to some of those other ones. I'd rather get some better, more consistently upside bats. And then Robbie Ray, a good, not great pitcher. Lot of ceiling, plenty of ceiling for strikeout, as we've seen over plenty of years now, but a lot of danger for power and a lot of power lurking in that Athletics lineup. So 4.23 implied total, I think they're very interesting on the board as well. They were also one of the higher ranked teams, one of the higher ranked home run totals of the day. Let me get that stacks board on here. Pop it right in here so we can talk about it and the contest as we've been doing lately. I didn't pull the weather board. As you can see, we always go for propfinders.apps weather. Our old pal Kevin Roth doing a great job over there. Again, he was only concerned about that Dodgers and Twins game today. All right, let's get this thing going. So, yeah, the Giants, I have them healthy in the middle. But, again, that's against the second highest Vegas total. I do acknowledge they're pulling a very nice-looking total there against Aaron Savali. But if you really look at it, the only one that's truly set apart is the 5.85 going to the Red Sox. There's not really a difference between 4.87 and 4.84, 4.77, 4.85, 4.81, so on and so forth. So it's not nearly as set apart as that might suggest. And again, with just the way that lineup plays, And if Savali finds any kind of quality, once upon a time, not too long ago, that was a decent pitcher. I don't know. I don't really love that spot, but it does also play significantly for values, particularly on DraftKings at third. Otherwise, they're in the middle. There's nothing wrong with the spot, especially given how it plays against Vegas and how bad Savali's been. But again, if it gets popular, I like some of these other spots a little bit better. I think the Braves, again, super interesting. They're ranked 10th in that Vegas total, and that one is a little bit, half run offset from the other side. But I don't really understand that. That feels like it's given a little bit too much credit to that Padres ballpark. Marquez has just been so bad. And there's no real signs of life. Plenty of upside in that Braves offense. So that's the one I'm looking for if that goes a little bit under-owned compared to, say, Boston. And of course, the Dodgers, the Orioles, who I definitely am interested in. Full disclosure, I currently have one lineup in the contest and I have the Braves and Orioles stacked together with it. Hopefully I picked an interesting pitcher. I think Cincinnati's really interesting, but definitely going to be buzzy in that ballpark. Milwaukee, you can see, as mentioned, I have it offset by a little bit. For one, and again, this is very, very close when you talk about fourth versus seventh. You're talking about minor decimal point differences, but it is there. And where they're getting a little bit more offset is one for home run value against Nick Lodolo, despite that ballpark being on their side. As mentioned, a little bit less power in that offense than some of the other ones on the board. And by value, 9th, 10th on FanDuel. Not the greatest spot in the world, but major upside, super playable. And if people don't go to that one because they're busy getting to more of these other ones, absolutely you can flock there in droves. Nick Lodolo not off the pitching board, though. The Rockies just dead on value. 15th, 18th by value. You don't often see the Rockies come up like that. It just seems like they're overpriced through the middle. They look perfectly fine on points, perfectly fine on Vegas value. But again, Sonny Gray, good limiter of power. You can see that impacting their home run number. 16th overall by home run upside. Not great. I definitely would consider Sonny. He was actually the first pitcher I clicked on, and then I sorted my pitching board, and I noticed that somebody cheaper was a little bit higher up. So hopefully leaving some money on the board maybe differentiates the lineup a little bit. Again, just throwing that one dart. The Mets kind of in the middle, a little bit better looking on value. But any of these teams right through here, you'll say from the Dodgers down through the Cubbies, anywhere you're seeing some green and yellow through there, those are your primary upside spots. And you can definitely pick off a little bit lighter ownership, I think, in this ugly hitting environment here, while maintaining upper echelon quality through those lineups as far as, player for player. You don't necessarily have to get overweight to that San Francisco lineup. Colorado lineup without value on it, kind of the same thing against one of the better pitchers on the board. You can maybe embrace Milwaukee if they're going a little bit underappreciated, and then any of those top teams look pretty terrific. Bottom of the board gets ugly. Even against Erod, not a ton of upside or value showing for the Cardinals. They're 9th overall by Vegas, but again, that's as close to 15 as it is to 8, let's say, or not 9th to 8th, let's say 6th. There are upside bats that we like in that lineup. Erod can go sideways anytime, but they don't look all that great. I think the interesting one maybe to talk about down here against what will be an incredibly popular Sean Burke on DraftKings is that 7th ranking by value for the Cleveland Guardians. There are a couple really interesting lefty bats in that lineup. If they find any track toward 6-7 runs against, again, Burke has been good, but it's more he's been good for Sean Burke, not exactly like ace caliber. He's not been nearly, Parker Messick, let's say. So that one kind of stands out for maybe a little off the beaten path value to attack the probably most highly owned pitcher on the slate with how he's priced on DraftKings. So I think that spot is at least very interesting to talk about from that direction. 13th by value on FanDuel, not really doing yourself any favors, but at least it will play against some popularity on Sean Burke as well. We'll get back into that as we get to the pitching board. What's up, Meech? John Hansa says Boston flopped yesterday, may help ownership today. Yeah, you see that sometimes where one lousy day at Coors Field or any other spot that's expecting a big pop for offense goes a little bit under on the next day, but people aren't fools. Well, you know what I mean. People are well guided by the various projections and people around the industry. So I don't expect they'll be anything approaching lightly owned, but maybe like slightly under where you could mathematically put them. Parker Messick, easily the top of the board against that version of the White Sox lineup. They've not been dead in the water, though. It's not an entirely safe spot. There are some high-quality bats on the White Sox side. That's another very popular spot, I'm sure, on either site, especially with the ability to put them together with some cheap pitching on DraftKings and take your chances on a day where the mid-board is just kind of meh. I think there's a lot of angles into Parker Messick today, so I would expect he gets really popular there. Probably in a little bit more danger on FanDuel at the big $11,000 price tag, and I would say the same thing about Robleski in the next spot. Those two prices are by no means safe by comparison to everything else on the board. Messick is your more likely option between the two. Minnesota, Chicago, similarly dangerous, I would say. Similar upside, similar downside through those lineups. Neither one overly dangerous, but there's downside lurking in, you roll this 100 times, 25+% of them. Quarter of them are downside games, quarter of them somewhere in the middle. And then you get a little bit of upside on a nice scale and with a big tail for Parker Messick. Burke against the Guardians. Crazy value at that $7,000 price tag. Sonny Gray, as I've mentioned a couple times already, 92.87. No problem with it whatsoever. And there are easy pass there with high-quality bats today as far as those prices go. It looks like you can get to Sonny Gray with ease with premium bat combinations. Shane Baz, plenty of strikeouts there. Again, he's been finding the Ks. He's been working deep into ball games. Been interesting. I don't fully trust it yet, and I like those Angels bats for their power upside, but there's a big name missing, and he's shown plenty of potential. 84, 82 are good prices. They haven't really picked up on it yet. 8,078 for a Robbie Ray that I don't really trust. Gives up a ton of power. We know what the downside looks like. We also know what the ceiling looks like. Robbie Ray can absolutely blow away the field on any given slate, and there are Ks available in that Athletics lineup. Those are good prices for an upside, but there's a lot of downside lurking there with a very dangerous Athletics lineup. Erod at 9 at 85. Again, we've won money with Erod over the years. He's a very shaky option, but he's been pitching really well. Just taking something off the gas pedal and finding just consistency and quality throughout the season. So he's very playable against that young Cards lineup. There's danger lurking for him too against some of their better right-handed bats. Some power in there. Yes, my free show is a total scam, fat jacket. The trolls are back. Boring. Anyway, a lot to talk about, so I'm going to just keep on plowing through. You guys handle the trolls. Cabrera, no trust whatsoever. Really disappointing season overall as far as that consistency goes. As far as a nice breakout last year, it's kind of gone by the wayside for the most part. 77, 8,000. There's potential there against the Mets team that struggles, but not a lot to like. Definitely nothing that you really want to lean on that hard. I expect all of that, though, renders him one of the lower-owned options with at least a little potential on it. Lodolo, absolutely no faith in him in that ballpark against a very good run creation team. 72, though, price works. That's a dart you're going to have to throw a few times if you're building more than a couple lineups on DK in particular. FanDuel, it's just a value option with, again, a fairly low ceiling, a lot of danger, big trapdoor falling into a cellar full of spikes. J.R. Ritchie against the Pods, just showing upside from that ballpark. Couple bonus points there created by the ballpark situation by how bad that Padres team has been. But J.R. Ritchie's been equally bad on the mound so far. Kodai Senga, not pitching deep yet in his return to action against the dangerous enough Cubs team. He's just very, very cheap, but you're probably dealing with a 5-inning cap there. Kyle Leahy at 74, 75. Diamondbacks kind of middle of the road. I just don't like Leahy without a lot of strikeout upside. There's no real potential there, but again, it's another cheap dart on a slate that really lacks a lot of upside SP2 options. He's in the mix for shares as an SP2. Edman Marquez, big time no. Ryan Johnson seeming like a big time no. Even at those prices, there's just so much downside there, given all the power that Ryan Johnson's allowed, what his quality looks like, what the Orioles are pulling on the other side. And there's no real reason to go there as like the Orioles bats will be popular, I'll take the pitcher against. Doesn't work that way frequently enough. Even at price, it's there as a dart if you just want to play the everybody through here is going to be pretty mediocre. and I can just buy bats with that, that would be your angle there, but I don't think there's any potential for that. Same thing with Marquez. Pretty similar with Aaron Savali against that Giants team. Again, he once upon a time, just a couple years ago, was a pretty decent pitcher. Not a guy we fully trusted, but a guy we got away with multiple times. And that Giants lineup is entirely targetable most nights. So 71.65, as bad as it sounds, he's probably one of the better extreme value bargain bin type darts from down toward the bottom of the board. Brandon Sproat in that ballpark against Cincinnati. Getting Ellie back seems like a big no. Sean Sullivan, no thank you at course. Kendry Rojas against the Dodgers seems like a pretty hard no at price. Well, Fat Jacket, if you don't want to depend on the free YouTube the free, let me take that again, Fat Jacket. If you don't want to depend on the free YouTube DFS show, feel free to create a subscription over at rotoscouts.com, and you can pay for the projections. It's so lame. Such a boring troll. My God, come up with something better. Like, just go think about a better angle to take. There's plenty to talk about. Just so dumb. Like, I clearly know what I'm talking about with baseball. You think any asshole could come in here and just look at a spreadsheet and speak extemporaneously about baseball for 2.5 hours? Are you fucking kidding me? Yes, I got fired behind the scenes, moron, as we've talked about before, and then worked at the site doing content because they liked how good I was at it for 6 more months until I started my own site. That's why I left. I'd still be doing content there if I hadn't started my own site, which is rotoscouts.com, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know. Yeah, I know, right? Providing the cheapest possible price point, as much content as I can. Free shows every day for hours a day, costing myself money. Anyway, there's your pitching board. It's a really interesting one. Let's dive into the game by game. I'm sure we got some lineups in. When I hit the lineup button, you hit the like button. Let's see what's coming in. Some of the early ones coming in. Looks like we got the Brewers. So first game up, again, solid upside created by this ballpark especially, but either one of these pitchers, totally targetable. Lodolo right now, 6.12 ERA, but a 5.07 xFIP, 4.85 Sierra over 8 starts, 42 and a third, 16% strikeouts. There's nothing to like about that. Last year, 3.30 ERA, 3.62 xFIP, 3.52 Sierra, 24.6% strikeouts. They got 4.6% walks. That's pushing exactly a 20 strikeout minus walk rate, which is what we're looking for when we talk about ace quality. Not that I consider Nick Lodolo anything approaching an ace, but there are markers of that type of a quality pitcher. It's just everything about this situation, everything about how he's pitched this year throughout has been nowhere near that guy. You can see the stuff at 106 in terms of stuff plus, though, is at least significantly up and well above average. It's just not quite working right. And he's not finding the Ks like he did. He's lost several points of swinging strike rate. It's been really problematic, and it's reflected throughout. He's also given up some oddball home runs here. The barrel rate is fairly consistent with last year, where it was basically a half point lower. 3.46 is elevated home run, but not problematic. 4+ is where we start talking about problematic. But it's not really on anything through here that's overly bad or inconsistent with where he was when he was better at it last year. So you just have some wonkiness through home runs. It's just how they work, but this ballpark doesn't help that situation. You can see, as much as I said that the Brewers we saw in the stack rankings that the Brewers are marked down for power compared to some of these other teams, you've got Churio at almost the magic number and a handful of guys well above halfway there. So it's not like this team lacks for power today. Don't make the mistake of thinking just because of how it looks relative to some of the other spots that the Brewers have no upside for power here. They most certainly do. Chorio's already hit 10 home runs. He's just crushing baseballs with a 13.5% barrel rate on the season. 9.84, definitely premium upside And also fills categories. He gets on base a lot. 347 on base so far this season. 375 weighted on base with a 341 xWOBA underneath it. So we do have room for some, back down, some travel back down to the surface, and he will struggle for a stretch. Still a very, very young player, but the upside is absolutely immense on any given slate. And against a lefty in this ballpark, major upside for Jackson Chourio. He's no secret. Bryce Terang, premium 57, 4,000, one of the best ways on any given slate to fill shortstop, 11 homers and a dozen stolen bases already. Keeping consistent, he's actually pushed that barrel rate back up above 9% now. He had slid back down to 7.9, just like last year again, and that was the major uptick over the last few seasons that we focused on over the last couple of years. High twos, mid twos barrel rates year over year there. Leapt up to 7.9% last season, saw a big outburst for power. His hard hit rate jumped from the high 20s to 47.4% last year, and he's maintained that this year while making gains in the barrel rate. Just a different hitter than he used to be. Really, really interesting bat for upside in an ongoing sense. Gets on base like crazy, creates runs. Absolute star at second base. William Contreras, effectively priced at 47. That's a super high quality catcher on DraftKings for that price. In this ballpark, in this spot against the lefty. 3,300 on the FanDuel slate. You just pretend like he's a first base option. Perfectly fine to go to. In place of Andrew Vaughn, but I wouldn't want to necessarily sacrifice Andrew Vaughn for him. You can get all three of Andrew Vaughn, William Contreras, and Jake Bauers in your lineup, but you can't get all of those three plus Gary Sanchez. Bauers at least offers the outfield eligibility. We love the upside for Gary Sanchez at an 8.52, second highest in the home run model against any lefty in baseball, but especially against a lefty like this, who is giving up the long ball in this park. Monster spot for Gary to hit one. Jake Bauers, no issues lefty against this form of Nick Lodolo, making great contact, steals bases, hits home runs, 371 on base. Andrew Vaughn so far has been tremendous this year. 349, 432, 523 with a lot of missed time. Over 125 plate appearances, though. Absolutely terrific following up last year's breakout. That's a very good bat with some power in it. 7.83 in the home run model. Don't sleep on Andrew Vaughn in the heart of the lineup. Blake Perkins, Cooper Pratt, Joey Ortiz going down the lineup. Pratt a little bit buzzy. So far, 23 effective plate appearances. Kind of doing Brewers-like things, 350, 391, 350, 3 stolen bases, a 112 WRC plus. Hasn't displayed any power, hasn't barreled the ball yet. But as long as he's doing things like that, absolutely fine. At shortstop, 27, 29 is a way to bring the price down in this lineup. Love the upside for Cooper Pratt. Perkins, more of a mixer, just another outfielder type. Same deal with Joey Ortiz. Hasn't shown much quality since a couple years ago when he had at least a somewhat interesting hard hit rate in 2023. Going the other direction, the Reds, again, get their superstar back in Ellie. 35 on FanDuel, perfectly fine. 53 on DraftKings. Those are good, not superstar player prices. Like slight tick down, but still a star, not a superstar, let's say. Ellie's a superstar. 12 homers, 10 steals, and 257 plate appearances, 280, 346, 509, a 361 xWOBA supporting his 370 actual. 14.6% barrel, 52.9% hard hit, way up over the last couple of years. Ellie's only getting better out there. Take advantage of the pricing. His price is going to go up. Blake Dunn at 37.28, not a bad way to start off from that stack, though. Connecting him into the power bats in Ellie and JJ Bleday and Sal Stewart that follow. He's getting on base at a 340 clip over 144 plate appearances. He's hit a pair of home runs, stolen 6 bags. A lot of upside there. You got to be concerned a little bit about the 282 xWOBA under his only 325 actual based on really no premium contact. But as long as he's just putting the ball in play, using his speed to beat it to first base, perfectly fine and well serving this lineup in the leadoff role. Bleday has just been crushing baseballs. 213 excellent plate appearances, 13 home runs on the board already. A 378 weighted on base, 370 xWOBA doesn't really betray it at all. Absolute breakout for JJ Bleday, who we kind of thought we knew what we had here. 52.39, price way up on FanDuel. It's up on DraftKings, but it feels really expensive on FanDuel. He's been really good, undeniably so, and against a very targetable righty. Sal Stewart at 47.36, cheap. Given the 14 home runs, the 11 stolen bases over 335 plate appearances while getting on at a 340 clip. Creating runs 13% better than average by WRC plus, putting up a team leading, second on the team, 14.3% barrel. Don't really understand why Sal Stewart's price is quite as low as it is. First and third base eligibility on DraftKings as well. Third base only for 36 on FanDuel works. You do have some positional conflict potentially with Joanio Suarez, at least to be aware of, but you've got the util spot in play. It just maybe restricts what else you might be able to do around, say, including Nathaniel Lowe in that. 36 on DraftKings at first base, perfectly usable, but you'd be sacrificing one of Sal Stewart or Joanio Suarez. And kind of same thing, if you want both Stewart and Suarez, you got to go third base util, and maybe you go Nathaniel Lowe at first in that equation. But I don't know if I want him as a third man and leaving two of the other guys above him out of that mix. You can get there though. Noelvi Marte, 3 home runs, 4 stolen bases. Pretty weak slash line on the season so far, 76 WRC plus. Not a lot of premium contact, but we saw a few barrels over a short stretch last year, 32-25. Effectively priced, just given the upside of this situation in a rising tide effect, and a kid with a lot more talent than's been on display so far. Jose Trevino, just a mixer at the plate. Nothing really to speak about other than that really cheap price. If you need it just to fill the catcher spot on DraftKings, he's not really worthy in terms of what he does. Over 44 plate appearances, absolutely nothing this year. Over 302 last year, got on at a 272 clip, had a 66 WRC plus, 4 home runs. And that was one of his better years at the plate. He's just a much better catcher than he is a bat. Edwin Arroyo is maybe the guy to look at down there. 56 pretty disappointing plate appearances, but it's nice to see that he's in the lineup still, even with Ellie coming back. We'll see how that continues. 243, 04, 280 so far, 62 WRC plus from a kid who was rocking and rolling in AAA so far this season. Really disappointing for those of us who added him in several fantasy leagues, but you take what you get out of these kids. He still does have a lot of multi-category upside, home run power in the, say, 15 range across a full season and 30 plus stolen base upside. So any given slate at those prices, second base eligible on DK is where you'd want him. Obviously, you want Ellie at shortstop. Brendan Sproat, I kind of blew through 22.8% strikeout, 11+% walk. I don't think we want 4.71% home run rates, just pushing some power in this direction. 2 guys above the magic number over here. A couple other guys chasing it in that Reds lineup. 5.9 4 ERA, 4.48 xFIP, 4.42 Sierra. He's better than he's been, but there's still really not a lot of potential in this spot. 6,000, very, very cheap. He's in the bargain bin, but you can see where he's projected. Not looking great. How did the stacks board have it? Reds, Brewers, Lodolo, Sproat in that order, but really don't want the pitching in this one. Cap says, baseball has variance. It's the stochastic nature of the game. What a jack off. By the way, stochastic had Milwaukee as the top stack yesterday. It's fun. I can't do this with clients. Cap says, Fat Jacket, create your own site, your own tools, your own Discord streams, etc., etc. You might get some credit, but until then, you're somewhere in nothing but air in the wind, bum. People calling for tickets. G-Man, why is he reading season-long stats for one game? Makes little to no sense. That's the way that baseball works. Large samples. What do you want? Like his last 25 plate appearances? Is meaningless. Tells you absolutely nothing. The variance of baseball, the math of baseball does not work over small samples. Full stop. That's why we talk about full season, previous seasons. That's why all those things are baked into the projections, all these different numbers. You need to know who these players are, not how they're playing in any given game. You need to know what the situation in this game looks like, what the ballpark looks like, what the matchups look like, which is exactly what we're talking about. We need to talk about the players in their proper context. And that's why we talk about season-long stats, compare them to previous season stats, compare actual performance to expected performance. That's what we do here. You want to get some asshole talking about, this guy over the last 2 weeks in 6 games against Kodai Senga, Ian Happ has hit 2 home runs. He's obviously the best player in the world when he faces a Kodai Senga. That means nothing. You want to talk BVP and shit like that? Go somewhere else. They're steering you wrong. Cubbies 4-1-9 implied. Mets 4-3-9. Again, not showing as much offense in this game, but those are not nothing totals. On a lot of other days, we'd be saying, all right, those are at least interesting, mid-board type totals. Today, it does knock them down a little bit, and it's just not good hitting conditions. This is not a nice late June day in the New York area. Again, it's 69 degrees here right now. Raining outside or rainy outside. So just not a good day. Does favor pitching a little bit. Cabrera, just been all over the place. 21.3% strikeout against 8.7% walk. Does have a nice 11.9% swinging strike rate that you can hang a hat on a little bit. That's in line with last year's number at 12.5%, but not quite where we want it. Just a 12.54% strikeout minus walk. You can see last year, 17.86. We're closing in on ace caliber status there. 25.5% strikeout. He had a nice uptick in control last season. The strikeout was consistent with the year before that, but he took walks from 15-2 down to 12, down to 7-7. He has basically maintained that, but he's just lost the ability to put hitters away. I think you can see a lot of the underlying quality in the 3.93 xFIP, the 4.23 SIERA against that ugly 5.21 ERA. So some bad luck, some things he can't quite control. But you can see the major downturn in stuff. The quality of his stuff has diminished by more than 10 points via Stuff Plus, and it's across the full arsenal. You've got a big-time downturn in some of his pitches. 12.5% barrel rate allowed. He's run into a lot of premium contact. This 4.88% home run rate is entirely real. There's nothing illusory about that. 91.2 miles an hour of exit velo is problematic as an average. 42% hard hits reflects that. 12.5% barrels is problematic. 11.9% launch angle is entirely manageable, but it just means his mistakes are getting absolutely tattooed on premium angles. He's just giving up way too much. And when he's bad, he's also putting guys on base via the free pass. That 8.7% walk rate is fine. It's not great against that strikeout rate, but it's manageable. But when he goes bad, there's extra, and it just creates additional downside. Playing with fire a little bit, this Mets lineup does have some quality for drawing walks. There are some Ks available, though. 23.4% strikeout rate on the year for this collection of hitters. Against right-handed pitching, 22.7% for the team as an active roster. You can see they're just a 92 WRC plus against righties over 1,800 collective plate appearances as an active roster. Not particularly this lineup, but underperforming on the season, underperforming expectations overall. Francisco Lindor not in the lineup today, but likely to come back tomorrow. Maybe more of a talking point going forward for the Mets if Lindor can pull them up a little bit. I do think there's playability, though. 4.39 implied total should not be entirely ignored. There's high quality in Juan Soto on any given slate against any pitcher, particularly one like this. He could draw 3 walks and hit a home run against ECAB if he sees him 4 times. Obviously, that would be asking a lot. Bo Bichette at 43.28, pulling things together a little bit. 248, 292, 367 on the season. 330 xWOB is really interesting to look at against that 290 actual. Shows the underperformance, shows the misfortune. 44.4% hard hit rate on the season, 7% barrels, closing in on previous season's numbers. Strikeouts have been down throughout the season, or been low throughout the season, up slightly from last year, down from the previous 2 seasons. 6% walk rate, consistent with where he's been. There's nothing wrong with Bo Bichette. He's just been running into some bad luck, hitting a lot of atom balls, but he's been mostly playing like himself over these 336, and it's finally starting to show out the other side. Gone through a lot. 2,700, 2,600 for Jared Young is very interesting for DFS. Jared Young has been consistently under-owned on these DFS slates. He's hit 4 home runs in 98 plate appearances, carrying a 341 xWOB under his 318 actual. He's only getting on base at a 306 clip, but he's got an 8.2% walk rate. There's a little bit more potential to juice on base via the walk, and he's just seeing a ton of success for batted balls. 13.2% barrels and 48.5% hard hit is, star-making potential as far as the quality of those batted balls. Not that I think Jared Young is any kind of star, but the way he's been hitting the ball so far over a growing sample of plate appearances has been interesting, and he's a kid who's had that power reflected throughout his run. AJ Ewing at 35-28. Solid mixer for this Mets team, getting on base at a consistent clip, 343 on base, not bad in his first 142 plate appearances in the show. 7 stolen bases on the board. He's been contributing. Excellent 108 WRC plus as he's just finding his footing in the major leagues. 40.2% hard hit rate. He does reportedly have a little bit of power, in that 12 to 15 home run in a full season kind of range. 2 homers on the board so far. Entirely playable in the outfield for a fair price. I was going to maybe stumble into just another outfielder, but I think he gives a little bit more than that, honestly, from the left side against this pitcher. If we're just talking about for that at that DFS price in a lineup that people aren't rushing to get to today. Marcus Semien been a little bit better recently. 9 home runs, 6 stolen bases overall on this season. There's nothing really to talk about with Semien. He's still mostly shot, but he at least isn't putting up a interesting uptick in barrels, 8.3% up from 6.7, 6.6, 6.5 over the last 3 seasons. It's reflected a little bit in the 320 XWOB, but that's exactly league average against his ugly 278 actual. So he has underperformed so far on the season. There's a little bit more quality still lingering there. But again, mostly shot. He's just nice and cheap at second base for what the, any given slate ceiling can look like against a up and down ECAB. Brett Beatty, MJ Melendez, 2 high quality sources for batted ball events from the left side over the last couple seasons. 12.8% barrel, 46.7% hard hit rate for Brett Beatty last year, most notably. This year so far for MJ, 10.6% barrel, 54.5% hard hit, over 133 chances. It's resulted in really nothing. Slash lines, limited output for home runs. They haven't been good, but they've been creating interesting batted ball events. Brett Beatty's been struggling with it this year, but had a very good run through last year. So there's quality in those cheap prices for lefties down toward the bottom of this Mets lineup, especially when you're combining 5 of these Mets hitters. I would say embrace the discount of at least one of these 2 guys. If not that, Francisco Alvarez is kind of obvious on DraftKings at 3,100 if you're going toward the Mets. The fact that he's hitting 9th doesn't really help us. It doesn't make him as high quality of a potential one-off at that price, but I think he should still be on your list for that, and maybe hitting 9th renders him a little bit lower owned than he ought to be. This kid crushes baseballs when he connects. He's hit 5 home runs in 166 plate appearances over which he has otherwise been pretty decent. 100 WRC plus, but a 335 XWOB under the 312 actual tells us there's more room to grow there. That's a really interesting hitter where you have to play catchers, and you can wrap him back around. It's not that he gets on base in an extreme quality, but there's enough there that you could believably put him as a wraparound. 7.8% walk, slightly down this year, but 9.7 last year, 8.9 the year before. He can absolutely draw a walk against a pitcher like Cabrera. On the Cubs side, going up against Senga, 24 innings, in 6 starts this season. The return to action, we're talking about, where is he? 4 innings last time out at Cincinnati. 4 earned runs, struck out 5, but walked 4, gave up 2 home runs. 2 2/3 against Colorado in his last start back on April 26th. So I'm not really expecting more than 5 here. He looks pretty limited. On the season, he was walking way too many prior to the injury, and then came back again, walked 4 against 5 strikeouts in that start, and was out of the game. Stuff hasn't measured up. He's given up some premium contact, even though I caught the exit velo number there, not the home run number. It hasn't resulted in as much exit velocity as one might expect on the 11.8% barrel rate, but it comes on a 21.2 degree average launch angle. Let's put it that way, resulting in a 6.14% home run. There is some happenstance baked into that on those fly balls, but he just gives up the fly ball with consistency, and they're getting out of the ballpark against him pretty consistently when he's pitched this season. So no real depth, no real ceiling, limited potential, putting too many guys on base against a team that has 6 guys in this version of the lineup with double-digit walk rates. It's just a recipe for disaster against this Cubs team. 419 implied total, they're definitely in play from the mid-board. 6,300 is awfully expensive for PCA. 39, he's been very, very good recently. 286, 363, 521. It's been the better part of 2 months now that he's been back to high-quality PCA after 3 and change months of struggling going back to last year. 146 WRC plus on the season, still a 367 XWOB under the 381 actual, a little room to come back down to earth, but he has been pretty consistently good. It's just we've gotten extreme in that DraftKings price. I don't fully believe in that given those long stretches of absolutely no production. Alex Bregman at 42.28, entirely reasonable. We've seen tons of success with Bregman, if nothing else, still getting on at a 343 clip. I would maybe reconsider having him in the 2 spot going forward, but a perfectly playable bat for our purposes, especially if he's hitting up there because he benefits from everybody around him in that lineup. And he's better than he's been still. I do still believe that. It's a minor amount of that in a 319 actual xWOBA against a 313 actual. Not that this is even above average, 1 point below average in both xWOBA and WRC plus so far on this season. Lost a little bit of barrel, lost more on hard hit. Still very low strikeout, decent walk rate. Again, an on-base machine, if nothing else. For correlated scoring, he's fine. Michael Busch, 11.3% barrel, slowly but surely creeping back up in barrel rate. 8 home runs, 247, 377, 396. Another player who, at worst, gets on base like crazy and provides correlated scoring potential. 15.4% walk rate. 3 true outcomes hitter with maybe a little bit more quality than that in terms of batting average, depending on where the ball's falling for him. 353 xWOBA under his 348 actual, 123 to WRC plus. Despite the downturn in actual home run output, he's been very good. And I feel like people have been thinking that he's not been good. 45-31. The sites certainly do in their pricing algorithm. I think we just continue to take advantage of that. Big time lefty bat against Kodai Senga, and the power could turn on like that as far as the home run output. Seiya Suzuki, solid, but not spectacular numbers in premium contact compared to the past few seasons. They're way, way down, but there's plenty of upside there based on what we've seen from this hitter in the past. 10 home runs on the board. It's not nothing. 358 on base. Another guy just on all the time. This team should be just significantly better than it is, given some of their run creation marks, their ability to get on base. Ian Happ, super playable, 45-36, much more expensive on the FanDuel slate relative to cap, but plenty of upside even there. 16 home runs, a 337 on base, barreling the ball like crazy, drawing plenty of walks. There are strikeouts in Ian Happ's game this year, much more so than previous seasons. That's been one little minor blip for problems, but he's exchanged it for more power, which I think we take, and the walks have stayed in place. The on base has stayed in place. So it's a fair trade. I have no real issue with that uptick in strikeout rate, but maybe it plays to his negative sometimes. Matt Shaw, relatively low strikeout, medium quality contact, medium quality walk rate. He's okay. He's very cheap at third base, but I'd much rather have a slightly more expensive Alec Bregman from the 2 spot. He does fit in the outfield on DraftKings. There's not a ton of appeal there. 107 WRC plus is okay, but it comes with a 294 xWOBA against his 324 actual. Not great. Nico really been struggling through this part of the season. 342 plate appearances in now. We're not at a pretty slash line. We're at an 84 WRC plus, at least an encouraging 327 xWOBA, and the price has come down. Still 4,000, 3,000. There have been better options at second base or shortstop, certainly at shortstop. Miguel Amaya, reasonable enough mixer, 3 home runs and 125 plate appearances. Nothing special there, but occasionally gets into one, 7.6, 6.6% barrel rates the last 2 years. And then Dansby, we're still believers in Dansby, 13.1% walk rate, but getting on at just a 292 pace so far tells us that he's dramatically underperforming on balls in play. BABIP way, way down for Dansby, but that's a switch that can also just get thrown at any given time, and we could see a nice surge. Still able to connect with the ball, still able to draw the walk and create correlated scoring. Not a terrible wraparound, and just nobody goes to Dansby anymore. So if he's in the lineup, I think you get there pretty easily. Talked about the Mets, talked about the Cubs, talked about the pitchers. I think we go, where were we here? Both teams kind of middling. The Mets slightly better looking on projection and value through, and then on home run upside. Slightly, but Senga the more targetable between the 2 pitchers. Mediocre as Cabrera has been. Call it a tie. I'll lean toward what I put on the stacks board. I'll lean toward the Vegas total, though. Slight preference for the Mets. Cubs right behind them. I would say Cabrera well above Kodai Senga, though. He's the realistic option for success. Guards, White Sox. Let me hit the lineups button here. See if we got anything in. When I hit the lineups button, if you haven't already, hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel if you're feeling it. Rotoscouts.com is the website. See that? We got the Guardians lineup in. Glad I did it. Rotoscouts.com. Rotoscouts.com. Running across the bottom of your screen. In just another minute after this part of it goes by. Promo code TRYME. Capital T, capital M, all one word. Free first week on a weekly plan at any time. You want to check out the site? You want to give us a test drive? Get behind the scenes, see what a scam I'm running here. Feel free. Dive in. Free first week on a weekly. Cancel anytime. Get charged $0 if you cancel before it renews. If you don't, it renews at regular price, which is under $1 a day for all 4 major sports. Doesn't seem like much of a scam to me. Maybe I'm biased. It is my website after all. Check it out, guys. Also running, as you can see, home run picks contest is ongoing. Let me throw the rules back up there for those who weren't here earlier. They're right there. Win a free month, first to 5 wins. Leaders are currently at 3. We've got 2 people tied at 3. 3 people tied at 1 after going back to the 10th. So, some missed shows in there. Rules are you can only pick from this slate that we talk about. So these 9 games that are in play, you cannot use my home run pick of the day. 1 pick per person per day must come from this slate. Got to use the same YouTube name every day. I'm not going to track you across multiple names. Only 1 Ohtani or Judge usage. Judge still out. Ohtani limited action so far, but one of the leaders has already used his Ohtani pick. I think you got it right. Got to cash that in. So go win yourself a free month of rotoscouts.com. If you're the first to 5, if there's a tie, there's a tie. We'll all get winner. We'll all win. I'll give you all wins. I don't know. Discombobulated today. 359 implied total on the Guardian side. 348 on the White Sox. Everybody and their brothers going to this game for pitching. Can we get away with bats in this one? I think so. Kyle Manzardo, not uninteresting against Sean Burke. Travis Bazzana, not uninteresting against Sean Burke. I'm not a big believer in what Brian Rocha has done at the plate this season, but he's been doing it fairly consistently. And at worst, he's low strikeout and puts a lot of balls in play. You can succeed from the 3 spot for that. He's not bad. Rhys Hoskins, tons of power. It's not a great version of this lineup going down. They're missing pieces, obviously, but they're very, very cheap. As we saw on DK in particular, they stood out for value from the bottom of that stacks board. Again, they don't rank well for upside. They're 16 out of 18 teams by fantasy points collectively. But they're 7th by points per dollar. And they're going up against Sean Burke, who is almost guaranteed to be at least the highest owned SP2, if not just the highest owned pitcher full stop on that DK slate, given that they priced him for some reason at 7,000 against this lineup. I think the Vegas total is entirely correct. I don't expect the Guardians to succeed, but that's a DFS spot worth at least calling out, given how cheap they are. It does apply a little bit on FanDuel because they are very, very cheap man for man on that FanDuel slate as well. Just doesn't play quite the same against the Berkshires on FanDuel. He'll be popular, though, at 88. He's a guy you can attack, just won't be as impactful if it works out as it would on DraftKings. Parker Messick, I think the big talking point here, 93, 11,000. Again, the FanDuel price gets bendy in an awful hurry against a cheap pitching slate overall. White Sox hang 3 runs on him, you're in trouble. 4 runs, you're done. No quality start, you're done at that price. But he's been terrific. 26.4% strikeout rate over 86 2/3, mostly spectacular innings. 2.70 ERA, a little bit betrayed by the 3.43 xFIP, 3.61 Sierra, then closing in on a full run higher in the Sierra. But even if he was coming in at even money across those categories in the realistic sense, we'd be talking about how good he's been pitching. So no issues going against this White Sox team with that total. They are dangerous up top. Somewhat diminished overall with no Murakami still looming large. But there's a lot of power in this lineup. There's a lurking right-handed bat who gets some attention, but probably not as much as he typically deserves. And on a day like today, where this will be an under-owned team overall, they've got enough spoiler upside against Messick going back in the other direction that they're not uninteresting for that angle. The guy I'm referring to there is Randall Grichuk. 3,400 on DraftKings, 2,500 on FanDuel. This is a guy who has made a career out of playing defense and crushing left-handed pitching. Multi-time 20 home run guy, currently carrying 8 over just 113 plate appearances with a 15.2% barrel rate and a 46.8% hard hit rate. Randall Grichuk is just looking really good in this spot. 4.65 in the home run model doesn't necessarily reflect a ton of his individual upside, but it's limited by how good Parker Messick has been limiting power. Parker Messick does not allow premium contact on a regular basis. He's quite good at inducing weak and medium contact, as you can see right there. 5.8% barrel, 34.7% hard hit, under 88 miles an hour of exit velo. As I said the other day, you can't even go back in time at that rate. 2.32% home run rate, perfectly in line with the performance he's gotten on batted balls so far. Parker Messick is just good. and he has an impact on those home run numbers. Most dangerous bat in the lineup, still Colson Montgomery. We saw he has been actually achieving lefty-lefty this season, in addition to his overall quality. 40-something home runs in essentially a full season of action now. Non-stop impact events at the plate. 4,400 is awfully cheap for the quality. Yeah, he slashed 218, 312, 487 this year. 269 ISO, 344 actual WOBA, but the 326X reflects a little bit of looming underperformance in terms of getting on base more regularly. But that is a star DFS player with all the power that he's got. Junior Perez, 75% hard hit over his 7 plate appearances, 1 home run on the board. We looked at him the other day, if I'm remembering correctly. Junior P. Maybe I looked at him on my own for that slate. I forget what slate it was. In Oakland's system across the minor leagues in 2025, 405 plate appearances at AA, 182 at AAA, totaled out with 26 homers and 27 stolen bases, 14.8% walk against 28.1% strikeout, 231, 348, 473 slash, a 114 WRC plus. Kid was downright interesting. He overperformed a little bit. That's PCL. And once he got to AAA, 12 of those home runs came in the 182 plate appearances in the PCL. So be a little aware of that. Monster uptick in the slash line when he got to PCL as well. Overperformed in terms of WOBA, 444 actual against the 336X, 368 overall against the 336X overall. That was entirely measured. The actual is measured across the 2 stops. The X is only measured in AAA. So there's a little funkiness about how those 2 numbers are working against each other there. But there's still a lot of quality. I think the 333 actual that he put up in those AA plate appearances is pretty realistic. And I think the 336X at the AAA level after the promotion kind of bears that out, even though it's PCL. So there is talent there. He's only 2,100 going up against a lefty, a very, very good lefty who does not give up premium contact. But that kid's got realistic power upside and maybe gets on base a little bit. Braden Montgomery, kind of similar things. He's got realistic power upside. He's got 1 home run in 45 plate appearances. Came in a big spot. Needs to get it going as far as hitting another one. Finding a 6.5% barrel, 35% hard hit. Mediocre so far for contact. Underperforming by XWOB, or overperforming in terms of his actual against his XWOB, a 304X. But a 110 WRC plus. He's been creating fantasy points. That's all we really need to talk about at 3,000, 2,700. A little bit more, the switch hitting kid, than just another outfielder. Luis Angel, kind of a nothing bat mixer in the infield at the absolute best, but you don't really want him at shortstop, especially not when you're putting Colson Montgomery there, though Montgomery has third base on DraftKings too. Honestly, if you can get Montgomery into third base and take another high-quality shortstop on this slate, do so. Sam Antonacci's the talking point down there. 36-31 remains very affordable across sites, despite a 391 on base over now 235 plate appearances, 11 steals, 4 home runs, 132 WRC plus. Don't sleep on Sam Antonacci just because there's a lefty on the mound. He's been getting plate appearances against them. Overall, finding a lot of success across multiple categories for DFS. And then Drew Romo, 5 home runs on the board on 103 plate appearances. Take what you get. Going down the rest of that guards lineup, I got away from the bottom end there because it's just so bleh. Daniel Schneemann, mixer, made some premium contact last year, 11.4% barrels and 41.7% hard hit from the left side. Very affordable. So far this year, nothing in terms of premium contact, nothing in terms of actual success at the plate at 216, 288, 352, and 80 WRC plus. Concerning weighted on base numbers. He has found 6 home runs and 4 stolen bases, and any random slate you might have found a little success with him. Last season over 422, he did hit 12 homers, stole 9 bags, but you can see kind of consistent performance with right where he's at now as far as that slash line goes, as far as the WOBA goes. So a really underwhelming option. He's just cheap in the heart of that Guardians lineup, and he does hit lefty against a version of Sean Burke that's pitched to a 24% strikeout, has a 3.89 ERA, a 4.18 xFIP, 3.91 Sierra if you want a tiebreaker. Sean Burke's a 4-run pitcher with downside. So a lefty like that who occasionally finds a high-impact event at the plate, definitely in the mix if you're going Guardians. But that's not an appealing hitter in a vacuum. Khalil Watson drawing a 40% hard hit rate over his 13 plate appearances that have kind of gone nowhere so far. Did you get to show any action last year? No. Khalil in AAA this season, 12 home runs, 15 stolen bases, a 370 on base, creating runs 25% better than average, but massively overperforming. 381 WOBA against a 321 actual, or a 321X rather. Same thing last year across AA and AAA. No, I'll just talk about the AAA number since that's, again, where XWOB is measured. 370 actual across 176 plate appearances, over which he hit 8 home runs, stole 10 bases. 324X. So right around league average. I wouldn't expect a ton of ongoing upside, but definitely a kid who's going to have his DFS days, given some of those totals. Stephen Kwan not hitting for his typical average, really uninteresting given that 70 WRC plus. Nothing really to talk about as far as encouragement from the XWOB at just 302. It is slightly better than the actual number, though. Austin Hedges, kind of nothing at the plate. Petey Halpin has had a few decent batted ball events, haven't resulted in anything over 47 plate appearances. Another guy you could just throw in because he's left-handed for a cheap price, 26-21. Just another outfielder at the absolute best. Both pitchers are the talking points. Both pitchers are attackable as far as DFS angles go. I think Sean Burke is the far more vulnerable of these two pitchers. So that leads me toward Guardians slightly in that regard. But I think the White Sox overall, man for man, are probably the better lineup, if that makes sense. Anyway, you slice it, it's going to be Messick, Burke, and then whichever of these bats you prefer. They're essentially the same. But given what I just said, I will put the Guardians slightly ahead of the White Sox just because I would rather attack Sean Burke than Parker Messick. Respect the game. What do you think about Bazana today? I like the upside. Again, if you're going to that Guardians team or honestly just taking him as a one-off, especially on DK, that's a good one-off to consider just as an individual line into whatever Sean Burke's ownership might be. You know, if you got mostly man for man down the line, but you pivot that at second base and you don't have Burke in your lineup, you're going up against a ton of similar lineups that do have him. You can create a little bit of an angle by doing that. So yeah, Bazana Manzardo, that's fun to say. Bonzardo would definitely be the premium upside pieces there. Thank you, Respect the Game. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate your comments, buddy. Fat Jacket says, hard pass on anything you do, buddy. You have never shipped a GPP. A total fraud. Yes. There's photographic evidence of me shipping multiple GPPs, but that's okay. Joke's on you, buddy. Have played DFS for a long time. I know the game, and it's not won by reading off season-long stats. The fact you don't know this is why it is so obvious you are a loser. The fact that you don't know anything makes your comments so fucking boring. It's the same shit with this troll every single time. Come on, get a new routine. Alan S., absolutely. That's a premium angle into this slate. I think that's going to be crazy, crazy popular. Messick and Burke stack. If you want to throw it into SE, as our old pal Gunn says, throw a blanket over the win on a honestly ugly slate for win potential among all the other starters. Perfectly fine to go to that. Try and pick off a little bit of bonus. Either one of those guys could find a ton of success. Both of those guys are among the more likely angles to success, but I would expect that's actually like just straight up your most popular combination of pitchers on DraftKings, given those run totals. Dodgers, kind of obvious at 485. There is weather in the area in this game, something to be aware of there. They're going up against Kendry Rojas in his second overall start. A couple innings of a couple appearances with multi-inning relief, including last time out, 3 innings against the Red Sox at Fenway. Faced 12 hitters, struck out 3 of them, walked 1, allowed 1 hit, perfectly fine. 4 innings in his most recent full start, his only full start against Houston. Was effective again, 3 strikeouts and a walk, 2 hits, no runs. Has been perfectly fine in his limited 14 innings, 1.26 ERA, but a concerning 4.80 xFIP, 23% strikeout against 16.4% walk, obviously a little bit concerning there. And he's facing the Dodgers. So I don't think we go there for 4 innings. I think I gave him like 4.5, just splitting it. Obviously, we're not talking about half for for the troll, I'm not saying 4.5 as a baseball number. I'm saying that as how the model works. Obviously, it would be 4, 4 1/3, 4 2/3, or 5, or further. 65, 57. I don't think you need any Kendall Rojas. Very low projected. Very unlikely to succeed, with the Dodgers pulling a surprisingly under 5-run total, honestly. They're showing a ton of power upside. Ohtani doubling up the magic number. Andy Pajas pulling ahead of it at 10.04. And then a solid handful of guys through this lineup at or around it. So plenty of upside for power for the Dodgers. They're priced like their usual landing points, but you do have a little value on Max Muncy at just 45 on DK. And I'd say the same thing about Mookie Betts. 4,500, not a bad price. It plays the same way on FanDuel. 3,000 at shortstop for Mookie Betts is a bargain. 3,200 for Max Muncy at third base is a bargain. Third base is a difficult position to fill with quality. Max Muncy is one of the best options on any given slate. 16 home runs, a 368 on base, a 389 xWOBA for the season, 145 WRC plus. Max Muncy still crushes baseballs, draws walks, gets on base, and creates premium scoring events for DFS. He's an absolute asset in this Dodgers lineup. I feel like he goes under-owned, especially with being as cheap as he is. Mookie hasn't been himself at the plate by and large over 190 plate appearances. He at least has 8 home runs. He's found a little bit of an uptick in barrel rate so far this season. That probably normalizes as he just finds his usual output. 333 xWOB under his actual 294 shows us the underperformance so far. Mookie's still lurking in there somewhere, and he's going to come on out at some point. So continue going there. He is a bargain at that price, and he's another guy who's not quite getting the ownership that he should, considering how cheap they're pricing him. Ohtani's obvious and he's difficult to reach. The price is not incorrect by any means. Pajas at 5 has come down a little bit on DK. 15 home runs, a 264, 313, 479 slash line. That's just okay, but all the power in the world. We saw plenty of barrels last season. 10.7% in a limited sample the year before. Had a very strong start to the year. He's come down slightly in terms of premium contact, but still pulling a 46.3% hard hit rate. Not a bad option. Low strikeout, low medium walk rate, a lot of balls in play that are particularly well struck. 12% barrel rate on Freddie, 13 home runs on the board, 363 on base. Don't really care about the dip in batting average. They've priced him down slightly from his former heights, 5,200, 3,400. Manageable. Tommy Edman, not a bad mixer at second base on either site. Third base, outfield eligibility on FanDuel, third base eligible on DraftKings. There's plenty of potential in Tommy Edman. It's a player we've succeeded with across categories over the years. He lacks consistency, but he carries a decent ceiling. Middling type home run output, the 12 to 15 home run type range in a full season. Similar totals with upside to 20 plus stolen bases in a full season, but a lot of playability in terms of DFS. Our best days with Edman were when he was leading off. Not on the Dodgers with St. Louis, but part of the lineup, it kind of works. Hitting ahead of Max Muncy really, really works. I think that makes Tommy Edman particularly interesting there for just some cheap correlation between those, honestly, Mookie Betts included. That 3-man stretch is a really interesting way to fill the infield. Shortstop, second, third base. That totally works. You're taking a 3-man, lower-owned, cheapest possible sample out of the heart of the Dodgers lineup to target a very gettable lefty. That's a really interesting way to take the Dodgers, I think. Alex Call is a solid mixer against any given lefty. 260, 368, 313, mostly against left-handed pitching. Limited for batted ball events, but high-quality, low strikeout, draws a lot of walks, gets on base like crazy on either a ball in play or drawing the walk. Absolutely in play for correlated scoring. I kind of wish he was in Chucky Robinson's spot in the lineup so I could use him if I'm not going to this mid-stretch. Then I would have him down here so I could dip down to him and get back to the top of the lineup with that cheap wraparound. Chucky Robinson doesn't really fill that, but at least he can provide catcher eligibility at the dead mid price on DraftKings, which gets interesting, right? You do that. You could make an argument for taking Alex Call and just like that stretch in that equation, which would be the absolute cheapest way to extract 5-man quality from the Dodgers. That would be $35.20 a man, $17.6 total for a 5-man from the Dodgers. But what I was going to say is if you went to Chucky, just take the free square at catcher and then just bring it back around to the top. Let's go with those two. We'll still get to try and get Mookie in there, and we'll take Tommy for the cheap price. $43.20 a piece for the 5-man, so $4,400 a piece for a 5-man that still includes Ohtani, Pajas, Freeman, Mookie Betts. Or excuse me, not Freeman. Ohtani, Pajas, Mookie Betts, Tommy Edman. That's not a bad average. That's not a bad total at 21.6 for the 5-man. And you're only really diminished by one spot, and it fills catcher, so who cares? There are solid angles given some of these cheap prices. Alex Freeland is no slouch either. 39.8% hard hit is a little underwhelming. 6.5% barrel, same thing. Striking out a little bit too much, but he's been drawing some walks. 318 on base is at least adequate. It's not great, but it's adequate. 294 xWOBA, not spectacular, obviously, against his 295 actual, but at least his performance has been, consistently mediocre. But there's a player there, given his minor league performance, given what they expect from him. So I think there's plenty of potential at second base at such a cheap price, as long as it helps average down on the rest of a Dodgers stack. I don't like the idea of going to those guys as one-offs, although Chucky Robinson at the dead min could maybe give you something. 12 empty plate appearances so far, by the way. On the Twins side, Wroblewski just going to be a big part of the slate, I think. 8,800, very in play on DraftKings. 10.6 on FanDuel. He's pitched to a 2.72 ERA, but that's deceptive. 4.38 xFIP, 4.53 Sierra. Sierra's slightly better predictor of future ERA than xFIP is. And an excellent predictor, as we've called out multiple times, is just simple strikeout minus walk rate. We're looking for 20 if you're an ace. 17 plus makes you decent. 10.76, not exactly terrific. Not that walks are a problem, but it comes against no strikeout, 15.8%. He hasn't given up much in terms of power, but he is giving up premium contact on a pretty significant launch angle. It just hasn't been the confluence of circumstances that have led to barrels where you're getting launch and exit velo at the same time. So he's gotten a little bit lucky, in my opinion, at that 44.4% hard hit, the 90.5 mile an hour average exit velo, and a 14-degree average launch. That is going to lead to some home run issues as time goes on. 1.90 feels a little bit light. This Twins team has power. They don't exactly stand out for it, but certainly in Byron Buxton. No Cody Clemens in the lineup today. Kind of sucks for taking some power out of it, but against the lefty, you see that from time to time. He's getting more plate appearances against lefties this season, but no joy for him today. Instead, we've got some righty options to talk about. We've got a few interesting switch hitting bats that go under owned most of the time to talk about. So there is reason to believe that the Twins could exceed expectations, 375 implied total, again, against a pitcher who's largely been overperforming and is extremely expensive on FanDuel. He projects out well, but I don't fully believe. So that's another kind of interesting angle against just one of the more highly projected options on the board. Austin Martin in the leadoff role for the Twins, 32-26, pair of home runs, 8 stolen bases. I think the most interesting thing is that 350 on base, but no real potential showing through actual or expected weighted on base. No real premium contact to talk about. Fairly high walk rate, low strikeout. So you get a ball in play, you get him potentially on base via the walk for correlated scoring potential or upside. He's all right. I think he's most valuable as a piece just to correlate with Byron Buxton's massive upside for power. 25 home runs, an excellent stretch of health, 306 plate appearances. Knock on wood that he stays on the field. Nearly a 20% walk rate, 49.3% hard hit. Excellent option. 6,200, 4,300. Way up there, but reasonable for the way he's been playing and for just what the actual talent is. There's nothing crazy surprising other than the fact that he's been able to get to 306 plate appearances at this point in the season. Josh Bell, 28, 3,000, 9 home runs on the board. Where he's really been finding success this season is on driving runs in. We've seen this from guys who just, hit third, fourth in the lineup that just find success via other guys being good, via just being in the right place at the right time. And Josh Bell benefits from how guys ahead of him in the lineup tend to get on base and create opportunity for him. His numbers, by and large, are mediocre. 248, 308, 399, a 151 ISO, 9.9% barrels, good, 42.9% good, but neither of those is absolutely phenomenal. 312 actual WOBA against a 324X. He's fine, but he doesn't stand out through any of that. Where he stands out, 48 RBIs across 305 plate appearances. Nothing in the world predictive about that within his own lane here, to the point that the troll was making. If anybody's telling you that makes him a good option, they're wrong. Because again, that's entirely related to the performance of other people. But he is in that opportunistic spot in the lineup, and he has found success for it that creates fantasy points, I think is the correct way to say that. Nothing future looking about it. Just talking about where he's been, and you're not paying a tax for what he's been doing consistently this year. 28, 3,000 is a reasonable price to pay for the production he has been putting up. But there's nothing on the board that says it's going to continue. Royce Lewis at 37-28, pretty bad slash line. 7 home runs in his return to action over 184 plate appearances. There is potential there, given a 14% barrel rate, given some success in years past. But inconsistent, mediocre. He's very cheap, though, from the right side to throw at Wroblewski. Brooks Lee has found some success, 12 home runs kind of unexpectedly on the season. Supposed to be more hit tool oriented, and you can see kind of a lot of that in his premium contact numbers. He's found those 12 home runs despite really not making good contact with the ball on the whole. 15% strikeout, though. You get a lot of balls in play out of Brooks Lee. Should eventually find success via BABIP, get on base more often, create runs in a positive sense, only in 96 WRC+. Part of this team struggles to create runs. Victor Caratini's always been good for batted ball events. A lot of upside for premium contact and a cheap catcher at 29-25 across slates. So far this season, been pretty bad outside of the quality on base. 5 home runs and 214 plate appearances, kind of in line with the ongoing output as far as a home run pace. You can see the underperformance, though. 343 xWOBA against a 309 actual. So definitely room to improve for Victor Caratini as long as he just keeps doing what he's been doing and what he's done throughout his career. An upside play at that price. Luke Keeschel, just a mixer. 252, 332, 328. Another guy who gets on base reliably, but it hasn't turned into anything. 87 WRC+, and a lot of it's come on BABIP. Just a 299, 297 WOBA xWOBA. Creedler, another guy, just a mixer down toward the bottom of the lineup, with 4 home runs and 92 plate appearances, should at least draw some attention. 10.9% barrel. That's a massive uptick over anything he's done in the show so far, though. 5% barrel rates across 2025 and 2024 in limited opportunities. And then Kyler Fedko, another just mixer, just another outfield option right now at 25. Fedko had to update his back end in the system. Did have 28 home runs and 38 stolen bases as a 25-year-old. Most of it came at AA, though. 20 homers, 26 stolen bases as a 25-year-old at AA. You lose levels of impressiveness from that. Concerningly, after a promotion to AAA last year, after that stellar stretch, 187 plate appearances, did go on to hit 8 home runs and stole 12 bases. But looking again where we're measuring xWOBA, 306 xWOBA under his 368 actual over those 187 chances. Kind of concerning levels of overperformance there. We'll see where it goes in the show. It's unfair to say he's just another outfielder given some of those totals, but right now over 9 plate appearances has kind of looked overmatched. 25-21, uniquely cheap down toward the bottom of the lineup, though. Dodgers bats with a bullet. Probably realistically is Justin Wroblewski. Don't necessarily want to pay those prices for him. Would consider the Twins as an angle into him if I'm building a bunch of lineups. Definitely if I'm building a bunch of lineups. And then Rojas bringing up the rear pretty significantly. Tall town. Appreciate you, bud. Respect the game, calling out Andy Pajas night. Love it. Thoughts on the weather in the Twin game? I defer to Mr. Roth. He had it as orange. Just keep an eye on Prop Finder. D-backs, Cards. We got to pick up the pace a little bit. Hour 28 in. Like halfway through the slate. D-backs 4-2-3 implied, 4-3-6 on the Cardinal side. Another kind of middling game as far as those implied totals go. Different days against, more 3 and change run games. We'd be talking about this spot. 2 teams that have quality up toward the top of the lineups and then kind of dwindle as the lineup goes on. But there are quality bats that we can mine for cheap prices from, the bottom on either side. Lourdes Gurriel at 3,000, 2,500 has done nothing with his 123 plate appearances so far this year. But we know there's at least lurking talent in there somewhere. Nolan Arenado, we don't really trust, but he's not expensive. You're not paying any kind of tax for the 8 home runs. I continue to think his swing is entirely broken and never coming back to any kind of level that it was. Mostly it was just a nice little outburst that he went through, and we're already diminishing again. But he's playable from that spot if you're going to the D-backs. And he helps stretch things out because he fills third base at a cheap price, and that's just a tough position this year. Pavin Smith is very, very cheap for a guy who can hit the ball hard at the major league level. 11.6% barrel, 45.8% hard hit last year. Similar numbers the year before in a smaller sample. He can also draw the walk with consistency. So he's super playable in the 5 spot. Lou James Groover is awfully cheap, just a mixer over 40 plate appearances. He's been pretty bad at this level, probably needs more seasoning. Tommy Troy, another guy, just a mixer down toward the bottom. 84 plate appearances, does have 3 home runs and a 12.1% barrel, but that's not something I would necessarily expect to continue. But so far, he's been at least playable. $2,500 at short, $2,700 in the outfield, depending on where you're playing. The guys you want to get to are the guys that everybody wants to get to. Ketel Marte, Geraldo Perdomo, Corbin Carroll. Perdomo's largely normalized at least some of his performance. 354 on base, most notably. That's always been his biggest attribute, is the ability to get to first base. The premium contact surged last year, and he saw a nice output for home run power. Right now, he's stuck at just 4 home runs. But he's an interesting option. He's stolen 11 bases, takes advantage of his on base, provides some correlated scoring. Right now, a 101 WRC+, but certainly plenty of potential for more, given a 12.7% walk, 12.7% strikeout, 14.9% walk. Just on base all the time. And a lot more to grow. 332 xWOB under his 319 actual. 41,300 is a misprice on Perdomo, given what we know about what his ceiling looks like. 53.33 for Ketel Marte is arguably an underprice. 12 home runs out of him. The slash line continues to be kind of mediocre, but his WOBA at 334 is well above average, and you can see the 369X next to it. So continuing to underperform what he's actually doing out there. 10.2% barrel, 46.5% hard hit. Still a stellar way to fill second base on any given slate. Corbin Carroll, just a star, 13 homers, 9 stolen bases, 0 complaints, 152 WRC+. And then Gabby Moreno, hiding. He's in the heart of the lineup in the cleanup spot at 3,900. I continue to harp on this. That is a misprice. Gabby Moreno is just good. Hits the ball very hard, 9.2% barrel, 45.1% hard hit, over 201 plate appearances this year. A growing hitter. You can see signs of that coming each of these years. He's shown growth, and now he's just kind of there. 17.4% strikeout, 10.4% walk is excellent for a catcher. He's done that consistently over the last few years in his growing career. 6 home runs, 4 stolen bases even. 358 on base. He's got a 367 xWOB under his 357 actual. He's currently technically underperforming while putting up fantastic numbers at 3,900. It's inexplicable how cheap he is against Kyle Leahy. Leahy striking out 18.7 against an 8.3% walk rate. It's another guy. He's checking in at 10.5 strikeout minus walk. Says everything you need to know about a 4.63 ERA, 4.40 Sierra. 1.57 whip. There's just way too many guys on base. He hasn't gotten too burnt by power because he's mostly kept the ball to a reasonable launch, 8.8 degree average launch on the season. But you can see that comes with a 50.4% hard hit, 92.6 miles an hour of exit velo. So if you're just blasting line drives all over the place, there's plenty of room to succeed if you're the D-backs. And he has given up an 11.5% barrel rate with that. So there has been a big confluence of premium angle, premium exit velo. It's just gotten a little unlucky for hitters to be at 2.86% home runs against. There is upside for power against Kyle Leahy here, even though it's not necessarily showing as much for the underperforming Diamondbacks. Going the other direction, Erod's been vulnerable for years. He's also just been a winner for years, consistently comes out and puts up frustrating start after frustrating start. If you don't have him, he'll be good. If you do have him, he'll be bad. I took second place in a tournament with Erod in my lineup on FanDuel earlier in the season. It can be done. Overall, 2.45 ERA, massively overperforming his 4.79 Sierra. He has an 8.26% strikeout minus walk rate, to my own chagrin as I'm trying to talk him up. 17.9% strikeout against 9.6% walk. But he's been terrific at limiting premium contact. Just in the groove, taking something off the strikeout pitches, taking something off the upside effort, and just limiting hitters. 35.7% hard hits against, 88.3 miles an hour of exit velo, 2.48% home run rate has been pretty realistic. More of a locator than he is a guy who gets by on stuff these days, but he's been making it work in interesting ways. 85,900, not particularly cheap, and not particularly cheap relative to more talented guys in different spots on this slate. But he's very usable. Cards bats against, very much in play, though. Love the upside for Jordan Walker and all his power, 9.63 in the home run model. He's hitting cleanup behind Nelson Velasquez today. Nelson, major upside for power against any given lefty, and particularly one who, in his past, has given up the long ball a little bit. I like that upside. 13.6% barrel, 68.2% hard hit. 2 home runs in 35 plate appearances. We saw him hit, 17 in 176 plate appearances 2-3 years ago? How's the memory doing? 17 in 179. Damn, I was so close. Was 17 in 170 something, though. That's my own cognitive test. J.J. Weatherholt at 49, 34, 12 home runs, 8 stolen bases in tremendous 328 plate appearances for the rookie. He's just been really, really good and delivering as advertised. 4,900 is entirely affordable for his performance against this kind of a pitcher. No issues going to it against the low strikeout, high contact, high walk rate Erod. Weatherholt comes in with a 15.5% strikeout, 10.7% walk, so he's just getting on base. Ivan Herrera, one of the better catchers on the board at 46-36. Somebody offered him to me in a trade. It was him and some garbage for Fernando Tatis and Grant Taylor. I immediately declined. But I do really like Ivan Herrera. There's just equal talent on any given waiver wire at catcher, unless you're in a really deep league. 10 home runs, a 406 on base, 141 WRC plus. There's nothing not to like about that option at 4,600 where you need the position. On FanDuel, you're pretending he's their first baseman. Perfectly serviceable option at that position. Velasquez, by the way, is awfully cheap at 34.28 for all the power upside against the lefty. Take advantage. Jose Fitterman, mix and match piece at 25-23. He's been all right, over 115 plate appearances. Fairly low end in terms of premium contact over the last couple of seasons, though. Low strikeout, medium walk rate. Fair amount of opportunity to get on base, but not a lot actually there. Very, very cheap. Mason Wynn, overrated option. The guys that are interesting at the bottom of the cards lineup, Lars Nootbaar and Blaze Jordan. Lars getting an opportunity against the lefty here. He does perform better against right-handed pitching, but overall 269, 371, 442 in his 62 plate appearances in his return to action. Excellent numbers for premium contact and a limited number of batted ball events so far. Walking like he normally does. Strikeouts are right in line in the small sample. Love the upside for Nootbaar to succeed at 39, at 32. That's more than just another outfielder, even against the lefty. And then Blaze Jordan with all the power upside. 1 home run in his 39 plate appearances so far. Has created some interesting batted ball events in small sample. Needs to improve across the weighted on base numbers. Right at league average by WRC plus. But we know that this kid has real raw power. And against a pitcher who's going to allow him to make contact, I think that's really interesting. So major upside at just 3,000 on DraftKings. 3,000 on FanDuel plays a little bit differently price-wise, but it's perfectly fine. Third base, tough position to fill. Pedro Paz, just a mixer at the bottom of the lineup. Win scratched. Thank you, Clintwood. Appreciate you, buddy. Let me hit the lineups button anyway. When I hit the lineup button, if you haven't already, hit the like button out there. Rotoscouts.com, rotoscouts.com, rotoscouts.com. A lot of information about the home run picks contest. By the way, for anybody who's left it in the chat so far, you got to leave it in the comments after the video. I'm not going back through chat. That's not how the contest works. Showed the rules earlier in the show. We won't get into it. But I do want to call out again. Free first week, anytime on a weekly plan. You want to just check the site out, find out how I'm running the scam, how I'm looking to steal money from you. Go check it out. Promo code is TRYME. Get a free first week on a weekly plan that will renew at regular price, $6.91 for a weekly, under $1 a day, if you don't cancel it in between. But cancel anytime, zero risk, zero commitment. I'm going to say, in a way, I do kind of think Erod is actually functional and important to this slate as potentially a angle towards success that isn't going to be particularly popular. In a perfect world, I would just be talking about leaning toward the bats, but I'm going to say Erod, D-backs, Cards, Leahy, and it's all very, very close. And I do think, bad as he is, Leahy, if he succeeds just keeping the ball down, pitching somewhat efficiently through 5 and change, at least on DraftKings at 75, is not completely off the board. But that comes with a big asterisk that he's probably mispriced by about $1,000 relative to some of the other crazy bargain bin options. So just know that you're not really getting him on appropriate value. I wouldn't expect him to be popular, though. Coors Field, Sonny Gray. Got to talk about pitching, unfortunately, at Coors Field today. Sonny pitching to just a 19% strikeout against a 6% walk. That's not great. 13.43 strikeout minus walk. But he's got a 3.12 ERA, 3.82 xFIP, just over 4-run Sierra. I think this version of Sonny, we're dealing with about a 4-run pitcher like the Sierra would indicate. But he's been very good at keeping the ball in the yard, keeping the ball to reasonable average launch, limiting premium contact, inducing weak and medium contact, in fact. He was excellent throughout last year. 4.28 ERA is more than a full run higher than that xFIP, right around a full run higher than the Sierra. Ran into a lot of misfortune last year. He induced a 12% swinging strike rate, had a 26.7% strikeout, 21.65 strikeout minus walk. So again, we're looking for 20% as an ace indicator there. That was over 32 starts, 180 innings. He was pitching deep into ball games. Might have been the last premium year out of Sonny Gray. I wouldn't be surprised if this was an ongoing downturn. You can see swinging strikes are down by more than 3 percentage points. There are problems going on here, but he's more than talented enough to pitch in this environment, more than talented enough to beat this lineup, and he's got some potential for strikeouts against this team. So Sonny's easily on the slate. Not the most comfortable option, but he won't be popular at 87, at 92. Maybe more popular than your average day at Coors, given the lack of premium options on the mound. But still, I don't think he's top 3 popularity by any means. I was going to say top 5, but maybe, given how short it is. Sean Sullivan going the other direction, 5,000. Meh. 2 outings, limited depth. At Chicago for 4 innings. Last time out on the 17th, gave up 8 earned runs. Struck out 2, walked 2, allowed 2 home runs. The 3 innings that he faced the Athletics in Vegas, he actually shut them out, gave up 2 hits over 3, struck out 2, pitched through the dangerous environment. If you look at his minor league numbers, he's got a 5.60 ERA over 11 starts, struck out 50 in 54 2/3. Gave up 10 home runs to 247 hitters over that stretch. Was not good as measured by those numbers, but that's PCL action. Every stadium basically is playing like Coors Field in that league. Everybody's numbers get skewed. And it creates just, misinterpretation. His AA numbers were better. He is a talented kid. Not a premium upside prospect, but reasonable. And for the Rockies, that's frequently enough to get you on the mound pretty early in your rise. Probably needs more seasoning, probably in an unfair spot with the Red Sox drawing a 5.85 implied total. He's very cheap, but I don't really see angles towards success for DFS today. Don't be knocked out of your chair if he goes 5, keeps him to fewer runs than you would expect. Don't be completely stunned if the Red Sox disappoint a little bit relative to public expectation today. They haven't been the best team overall this season. 5.85 implied total is a lot to ask, but it's Coors Field. There's plenty of angle for upside. Trying to cover all the bases there without fence sitting. I greatly prefer the Red Sox bats, if you can't tell. So no fence sitting involved. I'm just saying this kid's more talented than maybe some numbers might look like. Ceddanne Rafaela is interesting at the top of the Red Sox lineup. 49 is a little more than I love paying for him. 33, but it is Coors Field. 7 home runs, 8 stolen bases. A very solid slash line right now that probably normalizes back down under 100 WRC plus by the end of the season. That looming downturn that we've seen multiple times over this kid's career is very much indicated by the 292 xWOBA against the 340 actual. There are some problems coming from Ceddanne Rafaela, but in the leadoff role against this lefty in Coors Field, there's plenty of opportunity for him. 49 in the outfield is meh. 33, I like him at second base. I think if I'm taking him on, if I'm taking Red Sox at all, Enter Monasterio fits into 4 positions on FanDuel, so there's plenty of opportunity to get those guys together if they're hitting back to back up at the top of the lineup. Not really properly set in the 2 spot. For Monasterio, you don't really get premium contact upside. He doesn't really draw walks, strikes out a little bit more than you'd want. So that's kind of a weird option if they deploy him there. We'll see what the actual lineup looks like. He's more playable from down lineup than he is in the 2 spot, but he does get the rising tide effect from everybody around him being good at the top of the lineup. Willie Abreu, just one of the better options in this lineup. Honestly, not really priced up on DraftKings at 51. 35, maybe a little bit on FanDuel. 9 home runs, a very successful slash line over 319 plate appearances, where he's seeing lefties regularly this year. Last year, mostly against righties, 417 plate appearances, 22 homers, had a 334 weighted on base with a 335X, a 110 WRC plus, just was what he looked like, which is a very good power bat from the left side. And against this pitcher in Coors Field, potential rocket to the moon, but he's going to be very popular. He's no secret. Wilson Contreras, monster for premium contact, 59 at first base. Wish he had catcher eligibility still lingering. FanDuel continues to list it even though they're the same position. 16 home runs, an excellent slash line, tons of on base, tons of reality in that slash line, given where he is. He's overperformed by 19 points in terms of WOBA versus ex-WOBA, but that's still a fantastic number at 371. 145 WRC plus, still tremendous in the heart of this Red Sox lineup. Jarren Duran, no issues with him, lefty here. 57 is maybe a little bit more expensive than I want to pay for a Jarren Duran who's slashing 202, 262, 373, but it is Coors Field. There is a higher quality player overall in there. 35 on FanDuel, kind of priced up on that side as well for the environment. Caleb Durbin continues to just be one of the worst hitters in the major leagues. 221, 277, 369, a 74 WRC plus, matching 285 ex-WOBA and WOBA. So he is what he looks like, which is bad. Don't go there. I mean, it's Coors Field, so you can absolutely go there. He's looking to succeed on balls in play. Just a low strikeout, low walk, direct the ball kind of a hitter. Some people were misguidedly expecting a big power outburst from him on the season. He has hit 5 home runs overall, 7 stolen bases. There's not a lot there. Carlos Narvaez, Connor Wong. I don't know that you get both catchers in this lineup, but they're both right-handed, so maybe you do. Either way, they're both cheap where you need catchers. Really don't need to play them where you don't need the position. So far this season, Connor Wong has been the more reliable bat. You've seen some success over the years from either one of those guys. Nate Eaton, just another guy, low strikeout line drive bat. Right now, over 10 plate appearances, striking out at 30%. Last year was 21-1. Through the minor leagues, hit for average, stole some bases, but more of a contact-focused hitter. On the Rockies side, as mentioned, you lose Cole Carrig, but you gain Mickey Moniak. 5,200, 3,500, 7.07 in the home run model, 13.4% barrel. A lot of realistic power in Moniak's game. 12 home runs in just 165 plate appearances. Was getting on base pretty regularly. That's a reasonably good option at 52.35. The price kind of in line with expectation. 48.33 for Jake McCarthy. He's hitting for average. He's getting on. He's providing correlated scoring. You can see the overperformance, though, in the weighted on base numbers. So just something to be aware of. There's a lot of zeros looming from Jake McCarthy. There's a lot of 3-point base hit type days. But realistically, we're looking for the 2 base hit and a couple runs scored type day out of him. You're not looking for big run creation event, big point scoring creation events. Hunter Goodman's where the power lies in this lineup, 6,000, 3,800. 21 home runs and 305 chances from the right side. Tremendous option. But again, Sonny's very, very good at inducing weak and medium contact. And something tells me he's going to miss that bat a few times. 32.8% strikeout rate for Goodman so far this season. TJ Rumfield, reasonable lefty who doesn't strike out that much, draws the occasional walk. Not that, again, those are really issues for Sonny Gray, but he puts the ball in play, finds some success, 357 on base off that 9.2% walk. Tells us there's a little success on BABIP in there. So does the 320 ex-WOBA against the 365 actual, but he's been fine. 51-34, not bad at Coors Field. Tyler Freeman, solid mixer, 45-34, reasonable output so far this season. 283, 63, 75. Again, another guy overperforming, but you could see that continue for a guy with a little bit of speed in Coors Field. You just put a ball in play there, you might beat it to first base. Willie Castro, up and down utility type player, kind of mispriced at 5 at 3,400. Overall, it's been a good year though. 5 homers, 5 steals, 275, 349, 395. I'd just rather have him up lineup than hiding down there in the 6th spot. Troy Johnston, Ezekiel Tovar, mix and match type pieces. Johnston, probably a little overpriced. 308, 374, 435 looks great. 333 ex-WOBA under the 358 actual shows the overperformance, but it's also an above average ex-WOBA. So he's not bad. I just think 55 is a little bit too much to ask for a guy with a 2.6% barrel rate, even in Coors Field. Tovar, there's just a ton of swing and miss in his game. When he happens to connect, you might get the odd home run. He's fairly priced for this environment. And then Edward Julian, a guy who's got a 51.2% hard hit rate on the season now, carrying a 324 on base, but a 12.1% walk rate. I think his batting average on balls in play is still sub Mendoza. It's dragging down the overall performance. But you can see he's carrying a 342 xWOBA, guys. This is why we talk about season-long numbers. This is why we talk about expected numbers. This is a guy who has always throughout his career drawn double-digit walk rates, gotten on base like crazy despite a lot of strikeouts, has made great contact throughout his career in terms of premium batted ball events that create fantasy points. He's good for a wraparound play back to the top of this weak Rockies lineup. He's good for expectations of a little power output against Sonny Gray if he happens to get into the right pitch. Again, Sonny does limit that somewhat, but this is a lefty bat at 41 at second base, a difficult position to fill with quality, playing at Coors Field, 28 on FanDuel, same position. Second base is where you want him, not first. That's a guy who I guarantee you is going to be way underowned today. And that is a quality baseball player who can provide fantasy points via numerous angles. He's stolen 4 bases this season in just 207 plate appearances. There's not a lot of quality through the slash line. That's why we talk about the expected stats underneath. What he is doing up there, that what it should be leading to. Takes bad luck out of the equation. It was a similar story over 208 chances last year. To a lesser degree at a 329 xWOBA, but that's still way better than a 286 actual. Year before that, pretty bad over 301 plate appearances, but hit 8 home runs, stole 6 bases, finds spots of interest, was excellent over 408 plate appearances back in 2023. He hit 16 homers. He got on at a 381 clip, 136 WRC plus. You think that guy just completely disappeared? Or has he just been injured inconsistently in lineups, moving from team to team? That is a quality baseball player hiding at the bottom of the Rockies lineup at a cheap price at second base. Red Sox bats, Sonny Gray. Rockies bats, giving Sonny Gray a little faith there. Sean Sullivan bringing up the bottom. 3 to go. Again, these late games get interesting. This is that Orioles team, and that's the power that they're showing today. Home runs are an issue for Ryan Johnson in a small sample so far. 5 allowed over 13 and a third, 2 starts, 3 relief appearances, 2 home runs in each of the last 2 games. That was a 5-inning start against the Athletics. Potentially forgive a little bit of it. It was on the 18th. Was that Vegas? I think it was. Come on. Last season, in 14 and 2/3 in the show, 72 hitters, same number of hitters. He gave up 4 more home runs. So that's a lot of power on display in the brief time we've seen this kid in the show. This season in 28 and 2/3, mostly at Double-A, 2 home runs allowed to 113 hitters. Not particularly problematic down there. There's no real large sample to talk about. He's a 2024 draft pick. Compensation round. Overall pick 74. So some prospect pedigree for sure. It just doesn't look like it's fully cooked yet. At the major league level, he's gotten tattooed. In the minors, hasn't been a problem. Finding some strikeout, limiting walks. There's quality there. I don't expect him to succeed in this spot. I'm very intrigued by the Orioles' bats. And maybe we get 5. He gave up 5 earned runs in that game against the Athletics, but did get through 5 innings. 2 home runs allowed, 2 strikeouts, and a walk. Again, just not ready to put away major league hitters. 9.7% strikeout rate across his 13 and a third this season. Comes against an 11.1% walk rate. So when we're looking for 20%, I don't think negative 1.4 is the kind of thing we want to be talking about. Just looking like a target for O's bats. Shane Baz, on the other hand, 89 innings in his 15 starts, 19.8% strikeout, but a little bit of an uptick in recent games. Just a 10.97 strikeout minus walk. He's not finding a good ratio there, but there's room for improvement based on what the talent level looks like. 4.04 ERA, 4.38 xFIP, 4.50 CRI. I do think it's entirely believable that we're still overall talking about a 4.5 run pitcher like the Sierra shows. But there was a decent amount of prospect pedigree. He's been showing it off in deep starts recently. Again, in 4 of his last 7 starts, has completed the 7th inning, pitched into the 6th in 2 of the other starts around there, has not given up more than 3 runs since May 9th, and has seen an uptick in strikeout. Over that stretch of 7 starts, the first game, 7 innings, 4 strikeouts. After that, 6 strikeouts, 9, 6, dipped to 3 in 5 2/3, and then 1 over 5 innings, disappointingly against San Diego, but that is a relatively low strikeout team. And then spiked back up against a relatively high strikeout team against Seattle with 9 over 7 innings in his most recent start. But that at least indicates some quality. And the depth alone for 82, 84 on a really short pitching slate could just lead to enough fantasy points. FanDuel, where you're looking for the quality start, all signs point to an ability to get there. This Angels team has plenty of strikeout potential too, 23%, offset from some of these high guys by 3 mid-teens options in Denzer Guzman, Donovan Walton, and Nolan Shanuel. Shanuel's the only one that we know for sure is going to continue to be low strikeout in the show. He's done that over multiple seasons now. Again, why we talk about multiple seasons and ongoing numbers. Guzman and Donovan Walton, under 100 plate appearances apiece so far. They've provided some quality. Each guy's got 3 home runs. Walton's got a solid slash line over that stretch, including a 364 on base. But it comes with a 322 xWOBA against his 391 actual. 336 against 345 for Denzer Guzman makes a better argument in his favor, in my opinion. 3,200 is an odd price to find him on FanDuel, though, at shortstop in particular. Not the best way to fill shortstop. You've got 3 guys vying for shortstop shares in this projected Angels lineup on FanDuel if it falls this way. Differently positioned on DraftKings with both Guzman and Walton filling third base. Pick your poison if you're going to this team for potential at that position. But those guys do offset a strikeout rate for the team that is otherwise 26.4% for the remaining 6 hitters. So that provides a little potential for Baz. The same is available for Ryan Johnson. It's just there's no real indicator he knows how to go get it. There is an 11.6% swinging strike rate, I guess, but has not been able to finish off hitters overall at this level. Minor leagues, yes. Major leagues, no. So, love the upside for the Orioles bats. Think there's potential for Baz. Absolutely would play Angels bats against Baz. 90.4 miles an hour of exit velo is targetable. Reasonably targetable barrel and launch rates. Not bad, not good. 40.7% hard hit is marginally over the line. Limited overall across all 3+ categories. Again, 4.50 is probably your realistic number. So there's a clear path to 6-run type day. Probably a big tail as well. A big spike at the end of the tail, given the power upside around guys like Neto, Adele, Horace Soler back in the lineup. So potential enough to play Angels, but we prefer the O's. Taylor Ward in the leadoff spot, 14.21 in the home run model. He's turned the power on a little bit, up to 5 home runs now, including, I think, a pair over the weekend. He's been spectacular getting on base, though. 393 on base percentage, despite the ongoing downturn that we saw in power that hopefully he's now corrected. He's been terrific. 122 WRC plus, ideal in the leadoff role, particularly if the power comes back, hitting ahead of Gunnar, ahead of Pete Alonso, providing all that correlated scoring potential and the ability to clear the bases when the opportunity is called for. 4,400, 3,100, great price for that bat. Gunnar finding premium contact, okay around the edges. 229, 301, 431 is obviously disappointing, but paying it off, 103 WRC plus with plenty of room to grow based on where we know this hitter's been. 16 home runs on the board, at least he's finding the power. Plenty of potential against all the home runs that Ryan Johnson has allowed. Love the upside for Gunnar Henderson from the left side of the plate. Pete Alonso drawing a 17.80, just shy of Shohei Ohtani doubling the magic number, but closing in on that mark. Nothing wrong with Pete. 18 home runs on the board, 12.5% barrel, 54.5% hard hit. Looking like Pete Alonso out there to me. Love him at those prices against this pitcher, 56-37. No issues getting there. And honestly, the Orioles stack up easily with several of the other premium teams on the board because you can not necessarily move pieces around as far as like positional flex, though you do have it on a couple guys, but there's just depth to this lineup. In a lot of ways, this is a 7 high quality options type of a lineup with some playability in the other 2 guys. So this is a usable 9-man stretch, and they're very fairly priced. So you can get to guys like our home run pick of the day who comes from this team. That is not Sammy Basallo, though he looks pretty terrific at 12.82 with 10 homers in his pocket already, over 240 chances. Standing out for price at his position as well on DraftKings at 3,700. That should be ludicrously popular. Basallo's been crushing baseballs this season. 28 on FanDuel. You don't want to skip Pete Alonso, but he's a reasonable alternative if you need to save $1,100 in an emergency. Kobe Mayo, also not the home run pick of the day, but he's hit 10 in 214 chances. 10.3% barrel, 48.4% hard hit. Striking out way too much, not drawing enough walk, not hitting for average, not getting on base with reliability. Bad numbers across WOBA, XWOBA, WRC+, a lot of things we care about. But the power's very real. The premium contact upside is very, very real against this pitcher. Love the upside at the price at third base. Don't really like him at first base because I want to get Pete Alonso. I want to get Sammy Basallo. But at third, that price works. But the next guy, 2,700, 2,500, Colton Cowser. 8 home runs and 194 chances. A pretty mediocre slash line. Just a 323 xWOBA under a 318 actual, but at least it's slightly higher, slightly above average. What Colton Cowser is just crazy, crazy cheap for a guy that we know has thunderous power from the left side. 16 home runs and 360 chances last year, was similarly bad across the slash line. Year before that, 24 home runs and 561 chances in a very nice season across the board. Colton Cowser, 12.1% barrel, just lacks consistency. 31.9% hard hit rate, down spectacularly hard from 45.7 last year, 45.2 the year before. But at least the barrels are there. I'm hunting for one premium contact event. Colton Cowser, your home run pick of the day from the Baltimore Orioles. Or overall, but also from the Baltimore Orioles. Leody Taveras, 35-28, mix and match piece with some quality across the stolen base category. Little bit of potential to hit for average, provide correlated scoring awfully cheap in the outfield, but ultimately just another outfielder. Jeremiah Jackson at 29-26 has found some success this year. Just kind of a mixer, though. The 295 and 291 weighted on base numbers ought to scare some people, but he's very, very cheap. Fills second base just fine. Jackson Holiday is the guy I'd rather have for slightly more money at second base, considering how he struck the ball so far. He's slashing 200, 286, 388. You wouldn't see it in that, but where it's hiding is in the premium contact. 13.8% barrel, 46.6% hard hit. Way, way up from a medium sample from last year, or a basically full sample from last year. Yeah, 649 plate appearances. He hit 17 home runs and stole 17 bases. There are some useful fantasy games in there. He hasn't been at all consistent, but he has found a major uptick in premium contact and in batted ball events when he happens to strike the baseball. It's a really interesting option with a ton of prospect pedigree hiding down lineup. Again, on the Angels side, we talked about some of the guys through there. Logan O'Hoppe provides plenty of upside for premium contact as a cheap catcher option. 4 home runs, pretty lackluster slash line, and 86 WRC plus. Needs to improve. We hit the Jose City home run lottery as the home run pick of the day last week at the end of the week. 3,000, 2,500. Looks plenty good to me. 284, 338, 507 from down lineup. 4 home runs on the board, a 13.7% barrel that is in no way uncharacteristic for this bat. He's incredibly inconsistent. But when you find him, when you hit on him, he's going to be owned in the low to middle single digits on any given slate. That is an upside bat. Zach Neto at the top of the lineup at 53-38, 17 homers, 11 steals. Just ignore the rest of the slash line and bank on the fact that he's pretty likely to improve across the board. 314 xWOBA is concerning against the 341 actual, though. Nolan Shanuel, again, you're just looking at correlated scoring, miscast in the 2 spot, but it makes sense with this construction of the lineup because you've got 2 high power, but nothing else kind of options in Joe Adell and Jorge Soler, and then Wade Meckler rounding things out. Your premium bats are these 2 and that one. Everybody else essentially correlated scoring throughout, except for Jose City, who does stand out for upside down from the bottom of the lineup. Orioles bats. I'll give it a Shane Baz because those are pretty fair prices. Angels bats right behind him, and then Ryan Johnson way off the board. Just skip the Braves game entirely, huh? 4.35 implied for the Braves, 4.24 on the Padres side. Pitchers get a little help from the ballpark here. Again, these are, though, reasonable totals that we'd be talking about on a lot of other slates as being interesting. The fact that the Braves are only getting 4.35 against this version of German Marquez is borderline inexplicable. I don't really get that. You know, you want to say no Ronald Acuna Jr. and potential downturn, fine. You want to talk overperformance in a guy like Ozzie Albies, who I continue to think the resurgence is not entirely real, but he's gotten away with seasons exactly like this to all-star levels in the past. So maybe. Austin Riley, massive downturn over the last couple of years, including these 312 plate appearances. I'm still a maybe misguided believer in a potential turnaround. He is still striking the ball in interesting ways. They're not exactly up to par for him, but any given hitter with those, we'd be talking about, hey, those are pretty high quality rates for such a cheap bat at third base. He's down to 37.28. He's gotten really, really cheap, still carrying a 10.8 in the home run mile because it's got a long memory. Playability through 9 spots in this Braves lineup, projected version anyway. Going up against Marquez, who has a 14.8% strikeout rate, making his first start back in the show after making 6 and then being out for a stretch. 5.76 ERA, a 5.45 xFIP, 14.8% strikeouts against 9.4% walks, leaves him at 5.5% strikeout minus walk. 10.4% barrels on a 21.1 degree average launch, feeds to the Braves' power upside. 45.8% hard hit, actually, marginally okay exit velo on average, but has given up a 6+% home run rate. Everything's just out, ready to be tattooed. Last year, it was 3.89 on bad numbers for contact over 26 starts. Had a nothing strikeout rate against too many walks. Had a 6.70 ERA, a 5.35 xFIP. I really honestly don't understand why the Braves aren't at, like, if not a 5-run total, like, give them one of those 4.8s. They're half a run low, easy for my money. Love the upside for the Braves here. Even, pitcher-friendly park, but at a point, we don't care. If they're just going to be putting it on a batting tee for these guys, I really don't care. Hopefully they go underappreciated by the public. Mauricio Dubon, not my idea of a great option in the leadoff role, but he's been getting opportunity up there. He's very, very cheap. He fills multiple positions. He's very usable for our purposes. Low strikeout, just needs to put a couple balls in play. 315 on base, not ideal. 318 will, but 320 actual, 100 WRC plus. Everything right there says he's exactly a league average player. So that makes him okay at these prices, especially when he plays in multiple spots. Drake Baldwin is an upside piece, monster for premium contact from the catcher position, one of the best catcher options on the board. 14 home runs, also hits for average, gets on base, creates runs when he's not hitting home runs. Major, major asset on this slate at the position. My hope would be, compared to other catchers in other spots the public might be getting to more, Drake Baldwin, probably one of your Braves who's more likely to be under-owned relative to what his actual upside looks like on this slate. I think he still draws some popularity and popularity within Brave stacks, but his individual upside probably outweighs what his ownership's going to look like today. Where you need catchers. Where you don't, it is more of a discussion back and forth between, do you want both of those guys? Do you want one of these guys and then some salary savings down through the rest because you only get 4 options? There's more a conversation to be had about those two on FanDuel than there is on DraftKings. Matt Olson, monster upside. One of my favorite bats in baseball, really. 342 on base, 20 home runs. Big part of the dynasty team over the years. Love Matty Olson, making his usual excellent premium contact, blasting home runs from the left side. Monster for power, 11.14. Should have been higher, honestly, against this version of Marquez. Ozzie Albies is mentioned overperforming pretty dramatically, 45-32, though. You're not paying that much tax for the success so far. 12 home runs, getting on base, finding it. Low strikeout, low walk. At worst, he's putting balls in play. Michael Harris has been tremendous and still way too cheap. Again, among many inexplicable things on this slate, I feel like I've overused that word on this show. This price might be the most inexplicable. The most challenging to explain, should have been how I said that. 15.3% barrel, 52% hard hit from a guy we've seen succeed over the years for home runs and stolen bases. This season, 14 homers on that excellent contact so far. 305, 337, 512 is the best stretch we've ever seen. And technically, he's slightly underperforming. These numbers should be a little bit better. Michael Harris is just good. Excellent lefty option for those prices against the corpse of Edmond Marquez. Riley, again, still a believer, still hitting the ball hard if nothing else. Dom Smith hits for average. Couple outlier home runs from him early in the season. Most often you're just getting balls in play out of the lefty, but he's playable in the outfield on either side at cheap price. Mike Yastrzemski has power in that bat. 4 home runs over 215 is a little bit off pace for the usual output you would expect. There's nothing to like in this general region, but we've had years of Mike Yastrzemski making very good contact. 17 homers in 558 last year, 18 in 474 the year before, 15 in 381 the year before that. There's a lot of quality there as just a mixer for a really cheap price in the outfield. Jorge Mateo fills categories as well. 7 stolen bases already in 110 chances, already hit 4 home runs. Not a big-time home run bat. There's plenty of strikeout against not enough walk in his game for the kind of player that he is, but he's very, very fast, and he does find the occasional premium batted ball event. Not a bad mixer at the bottom of the lineup. I don't love him at short. I'd rather have him at second or in the outfield on FanDuel. Against J.R. Ritchie, who I think is at least, no, that's tough to say. 67 on DraftKings is probably where he gains any sort of playability, and he's at best just kind of a dart throw from down there. Don't really like it, but the Pods have been the worst offense in baseball. This park plays to pitching. You can see the 4.24 implied total suggestive of danger. 19.5% strikeout is bad. 13.6% walk rate makes it way, way worse. 5.84 strikeout minus walk, a 4.86 xFIP, a 5+ Sierra. There's nothing really to like here at all. 4.55% home run, I would say is maybe a little high, given he hasn't allowed many barrels. It's a reasonable launch. Hard hits are right on the line. Exit velo is a little below the emergency threshold. But you can see the stuff hasn't really measured up. The all-encompassing stuff, stuff plus, location plus, and pitching plus haven't really measured up. It's only 6 starts. It's only 35 2/3, and he does have prospect pedigree. But another kid who probably lacks proper seasoning. He projects out slightly better than some of those other low-class options on this slate, though. So at worst, I think he's a dart here against the worst offense in baseball. Pods bats going the other way, definitely in play. 10+ for both Tatis and Manny Machado in the home run model reflects a little bit of that home run rate that he's allowed in a small sample. I do think there's playability across those two hitters, even with the underperformance from Manny Machado. At least we're up to 14 home runs now. At least he's finding the long ball from time to time. He's drawn a double-digit walk rate at least. It's resulted in just a 265 on base because he's been ludicrously unfortunate. He's finding some premium contact from time to time. It's down for him, but it's still okay. Somewhere in there, Manny Machado is screaming to get out. I promise you. He's just trapped in like a little glass box. It's like, Get Out when he like falls down the darkness. I forget what they call it, but he sees like the dwindling doorway. That's where Manny's stuck right now. Conscious, stuck in there, desperate to get out. Another good one would have been the Phantom Zone. Superman 2. Or technically the beginning of Superman. Anyway, Jackson Merrill, 4,308 homers, 15 steals, at least a usable DFS piece, but really pretty dramatically underperforming his talent overall. Where he is succeeding, though, is in some premium batted ball events. Hard hit rate well up. Barrels are down a little bit, but it's encouraging that the hard hit rate has gone up. You can see a little bit of that reflected in the still below average 317 xWOBA. That comes against a 278 actual. So dramatically underperforming what would be a more typical level of underperformance, if that makes sense. Gavin Sheets is very playable, 32-28, 12 home runs, a lackluster slash line overall, but a 116 WRC plus is at least paying some bills. Ty France has made great, kind of unusual for him levels of contact over 171 plate appearances. Remains very cheap at first base against a gettable starter. That's fine. 8 home runs on the board, but I wouldn't consider any success realistic. 307 xWOBA kind of bears that out. Xander Bogaerts has been mostly right around the league average overall, as his xWOBA would indicate is exactly league average, but decent for counting stats from time to time. 8 homers, 9 stolen bases to bear that out. Will Wagner, mix and match piece. Rodolfo Duran, mix and match piece at catcher, but very, very cheap. 3 home runs in 63 chances, 13.2% barrel. Wouldn't expect it to continue overall. And then Samad Taylor has been interesting. 340, 400, 420 slash line so far. Not bad over 57 plate appearances. It's a nothing sample. 3,400 feels reactionary on FanDuel. DraftKings hasn't really noticed at 31 in the outfield over there. Mix and match piece, I would think. 9 pretty bad plate appearances last year. 5 pretty bad, pretty okay plate appearances, but obviously that doesn't count for anything. 69 pretty bad plate appearances back in 2023. So if we put all that together, it kind of normalizes these 57 plate appearances into just like a mediocre middle infielder. And that's kind of reflected in the premium contact numbers. It's not really a player. He was a popular waiver wire pickup among people who go to the Padres, which will be limited anyway. I would expect he sees a slight uptick in popularity, more so than he probably deserves. Braves bats in a big way. Padres bats, Richie, Edman Marquez. I don't think there's any playability whatsoever in Marquez. Last game up. Who's still here? Bunch of people still here hanging out. Appreciate you guys. Hit the like button. Subscribe to the channel when you get a chance. WW, are people saying Canning now? Hadn't seen that. That would create a somewhat different situation. Let me double check where we're at. If that changed, I'll get it updated on the site, obviously. Coming up on 6 o'clock, but we got plenty of time. Canning is very, very targetable as well, but not quite to the level of Marquez. MLB still has it as TBD now. See what the Twitter sphere has to say. If anybody's got eyes on a confirmation, just let us know in chat. While we're looking for this, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. We want to make sure we cover all these bases. Mason Wynn got scratched earlier. We covered that already. Ooh, Jack Leiter out till August after ankle surgery. Yeah, the word was Marquez returning to replace Canning in this spot. And that was what he was aligned for. His last rehab was on last Wednesday in AAA. He gave up, struck out 3, allowed 3 earned runs, 3 walks in 5 innings. Think it's Marquez. Come on. I would hope if I included the U in his name. Oh, all right. Scratch that. Marquez is pitching in AAA today. As of an hour ago. So, yeah, it's probably Canning. Good call out. Appreciate it. Yeah, WW. Looks like it's Canning. Appreciate the shout there at the toward the end of the show here. We'll get that updated on the site. I'll get it confirmed as best as possible, but definitely not going to be Edman Marquez. He's pitching in AAA tonight. So, yep, good change. That changes that game for sure. It doesn't limit the Braves by any means, but it definitely makes that lower total make more sense now. And it'll take these home run numbers down a slight peg. But like Griffin Canning, assuming it's him, is also not good. 4.37% home runs, a 50% hard hit rate, 91.6 miles an hour of exit velo. His one saving grace from time to time is that he can keep the ball down, but he hasn't been. There's been plenty of confluence of circumstances leading to the proper trajectory, the proper exit velo to result in a home run against. 22% strikeout, obviously a little bit better edge for that than Marquez would have given you, but he's walking nearly 14% to offset it, almost completely. 6.64 ERA, a 4+ xFIP, 4.7 something Sierra there. Last season was mediocre 4.45 Sierra under that 3.77 ERA that he pitched to, walked 10+%, was better at limiting home runs. You can see a little bit of the ability to keep the ball down reflected in that home run total, but that's where the happenstance comes through, right? Because 9.4% barrel, kind of elevated barrel rate, 45.7, 91.2. All three of those indicators are elevated in similar ways that this year's are. This year, it's just happened to burn him a little bit more. Those fly balls have gotten out of the park. There's a lot of talk this week about the balls being juiced again this last month and change, which might be impacting it. Apparently, they're same angle, same velocities are traveling like 10 feet further over the last month plus. So something to watch there. But I mean, that's who Griff Canning's always been. WW. Like, go back to his last fully healthy year, 31 starts in 2024, 171 and 2/3, had a 5.19 ERA, a 4.75 xFIP, 17.6% strikeouts, 9% walk. He can find good games from time to time. Year before that, had a near 26% strikeout rate. This was his best season in 2023, 3.82 xFIP, 4.32 ERA, some strikeout, limited walk, found some swinging strikes. But even that season, 4+% home runs, 91 miles an hour of exit velo, was entirely targetable for power. 3 of the last 4 seasons, for what samples we have, has been problematic for power output against him. So this is not the same spot as it would have been against Marquez, but it's still a highly desirable spot to have some Atlanta Braves, and I bet you they go even lower owned now. Makes them interesting. Somebody asked a question. PowerBooks 4768 asked best low owned stack on FanDuel. Thanks for the great content. All bases covered. I try. Do what I can, bud. Some holes in that Athletics lineup. What the hell's going on there? That's weird. Why are those guys not drawing projections? That's why. Because they changed to... No, wait, that's not why. Yeah, that's why. Okay. I knew it was related to Griffin Canning still being there. There we go. Fixed it. Best low on stack. Let's pull up the stack board again here. So, based on that pitching change and that Vegas total, I would expect that Atlanta probably does slip lower owned, and just given everything we just covered with Griff Canning as a great target for bats against. That's not a secret. People do know that he's vulnerable, but I would suspect that obviously people are going to go to Coors more. They're going to go to that Cincinnati game more. So probably does slip by the wayside a little bit. Apparently Baltimore was getting talked up. That spot maybe not as surprising against the home run vulnerable Ryan Johnson, but I love that spot for some explosive home run based upside. And then to throw one that probably will be pretty truly low owned is actually coming from this game that we're about to talk about, and that would be the Athletics. I think I'm always willing to attack Robbie Ray with good lineups, and the Athletics provide a good lineup with which to attack Robbie Ray. And I don't think they're going to get crazy popular. I think people will go to Robbie Ray in this spot. Pitcher-friendly park. Robbie Ray can be very good from time to time, but this season so far, 4.07 ERA, which is only okay. 22% strikeout against 11.3% walk. So we're talking about 10.7 strikeout minus walk rate. It's also pitched to a 4.71 xFIP, 4.65 Sierra, which are entirely reflective of that exact collision of factors. Pitching to an 11.6% barrel on a 20-degree average launch, coughing up 4.15% home runs. Everything is in play for the bad Robbie Ray. Didn't mean for that to rhyme, but we need to talk about it. It is the time. 182 average innings last year, 3.65 ERA, but a 4.29 xFIP. Gave up plenty of premium contact. Got lucky on that 2.91% home run. Look how high we are in terms of barrel rate, hard hits, exit velo, both way over the line. Again, 40% concerning, 90 miles an hour concerning. We're way over. So got lucky there. That's an uncharacteristic outlier type year. 4.65 the year before. That was only in 30 innings. The year before that, he was out most of the year. Got to go further back in time with this guy. This is why we talk about years past and ongoing performance, because this is who Robbie Ray has always been. Find some strikeout. Yes, in his better years, it came with limited walks. Had a bunch of years where he struggled with the walk rate like crazy before these 2 years of excellence. And this is really the Robbie Ray that people remember and think about when they think Robbie Ray in a good spot on a short slate. I could probably use that guy. They're remembering 2022, 2021 Robbie Ray. It's been a minute. He's been mostly absent for several of those seasons. That guy doesn't really exist anymore. And even in those years, look at all the premium contact. Look at the home run rates. He was always vulnerable to the long ball. And when it came with the elevated walk rates, 2019, 11+%. 2020 in just 11 starts was nearly 20% walks. Those long balls become really problematic when there's extra guys on base. Robbie Ray is a pitcher I've been willing to attack or use on the mound for years. And nothing about that changes with this hard-hitting A's team, especially when they're going to be under-owned. They're a little expensive, but you're buying an angle. 4 guys in this lineup above the magic number for home run upside compares to the Orioles, compares to all the upside teams. There's more players above the magic number in this lineup than there are in the Braves lineup. Zach Geloff, excellent option to start things off. 5,034, price is up, but he's been consistently good. He's overperforming. 284, 338, 500 won't hold up. But the premium contact isn't exactly exceptional. There's room for that to grow based on what we've seen from Geloff in years past. He's already at 11 home runs and 8 stolen bases, probably on his way to another 2020 season. The concerning factor is the 301 xWOBA. That's why I say I expect the downturn to come through there, but not here, not in the things that create fantasy points. He's completely miscast in the leadoff role by and large, but he's very playable from anywhere in this lineup at second base. Kurtz is just one of the better bats in the entire league. Full stop. 19 home runs, 439 on base. Killer. Shea Langoliers, 58, 4,000. 19 home runs. Mashing baseballs, but also getting on base at a 333 clip. An entirely complete hitter. 5,800, 4,000. No concerns about the price at catcher. The hope is he goes way under-owned. Tyler Soderstrom at 54 at 34. 13 homers on the board for him. A 344 on base. Quiet consistency out of Soderstrom. He's lowered strikeout by 4.5 points year over year. Push walk by the same amount in the other direction. That's excellent improvement for a kid who came up with a ton of prospect pedigree, had a nice little breakout, but it just was, exceeded in every way by Kurtz. But Soderstrom's very good. 34 is a little cheap on FanDuel. 54, correct on DraftKings. Jacob Wilson, fair price for a guy who hits for average. I would just love to get him ahead of at least one of these power upside bats. We got Joey Meneses in the projected lineup here. Deadman price would make him interesting. It's a guy who's hit for power in the past. Just 3 plate appearances in the show this year. Didn't play in the show last year. 3 home runs and 313 chances in 2024. Wasn't any good. 13 homers and a very solid slash line back in 2023. Over 657 chances. Displays a little bit of talent. There was one other good year here, wasn't there? 13 homers and 240 plate appearances. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of in 2022. 367 on base, fantastic slash line. Obviously, very small sample, a third of the season. But he was terrific at that point. That was his first year in the show. A lot of quality lurking there, waiting to come back out. Look at all these guys who weren't even in the league just a few years ago on this team. So, while Joey Meneses wouldn't be a go-to option necessarily, the price kind of at least puts him on the board. What sucks would be the positional conflict with Nick Kurtz. You're talking about $4,100 of price difference between the two, though. You can essentially buy a full other hitter of pretty reasonable quality for that difference. Colby Thomas maybe split the difference on quality there. 27-24, nicely cheap. There's a lot of power in his game, 8.27 in the home run model. He's got an 11.1% barrel. Hasn't done anything with it in 70 chances. 2 home runs on the board, a lackluster slash line at 282 xWOBA. Doesn't really show off any of his talent, but there is real power there against a pitcher from the left, a lefty pitcher who can definitely give up the long ball. Don't sleep on Colby Thomas in your A's stacks. 8.27 in the home run model. Next best option after the top 4 for power. Henry Bolte's got the ability to drive the ball as well. 50% hard hit over what's now 130 plate appearances. 315, 400, 414. It's an excellent wraparound option, if nothing else. And then Max Muncy, I forgot to change his name on the stats board. He's pretty mediocre. He's cheap. He's okay. Rounding things out with the probably too popular for my blood Giants. They're very cheap, though, so they're an affordability option. Definitely in play at a 4.87 implied total against the corpse of Aaron Savali, who's pitched to a 4.91 ERA, a 5.19 xFIP, 5.12 Sierra, 8.27 strikeout minus walk. Not a lot of playability in Savali, even against this low-end Giants team in a relatively pitcher-friendly park. This is an underperforming overall squad, but Bryce Eldridge is giving them a little shot in the arm over 144 chances. You're getting a little bit more life out of Matt Chapman lately. You're getting a little bit of power life out of Willy Adames lately. Rafi Devers may be a little bit more difficult to see between the cracks, but at least 11 home runs. Pretty consistent batted ball events. They're not off the board by any means, but if they get popular at that total against this pitcher, there are plenty of other ways to go for similar totals against more clandestine spots. Cap says for as hot as Geloff is right now, he should be in the one hole. But again, that's why we talk about who these guys really are, right? There's no such thing as hot. Hot is backward looking. Predictive stats, that 301 xWOBA is forward looking. That's who he really is. That's 19 points below average, right? That's what we look at those expected stats for. That's why we look back over full samples, large samples. What we know for sure that Zach Geloff is a guy who's gone 20-20 in the show before, a guy who's provided major DFS scoring days. Zach Geloff's a great option, and so much the better for those of us who stack A's if he's leading off. But from a baseball perspective, that's the wrong spot to have him in the lineup. Hot doesn't exist. Streaks don't exist. Clutch doesn't exist. Not in a mathematically quantifiable way. Derek Jeter is the only exception. Not that you can quantify that mathematically either, but the man quite clearly was clutch, is what I'm saying. Luis Adai is in the leadoff role for the Giants. 320 average, competing with his teammate at Jung-Hoo Lee at 327. Both guys getting on base like crazy, 357, 359. That's basically the same guy right now in the leadoff spot, in the 5 spot, bookending the premium bats for power. Again, Eldridge still really cheap at 3,300 on DraftKings. I don't know what they're paying attention to over there. He's slashing 298, 389, 516 with 6 home runs and 144 chances since his promotion as a top prospect. What is DraftKings doing? 3,300 with outfield eligibility on FanDuel. Fire away. It's a great piece. 9.32, second on the team in the home run model. Schmidt at 6.91 in the home run model, technically leading the team at 16 home runs, carrying a 13% barrel. That's a nice uptick over years past. 362 xWOBA under a 366 actual says it's been pretty real. 4,500, 3,500, you're paying a little tax on FanDuel, less so on DraftKings, but he's more flexible on the FanDuel slate. In either site, you're definitely including him in a lot of what you build with Giants today. It's going to be popular, though. Maybe Devers slips by a little bit for popularity, given the inconsistency. But again, been hitting the ball hard all season. Strikeouts are up a little bit. Walks are down significantly. That's where, in my opinion, a lot of his actual underperformance comes from. 303 xWOBA under a 318 actual is not encouraging. But the ability to drive the ball is still very much there against one of the more gettable righties in the sport right now. Lee is playable again for correlated scoring, and he hits ahead of Willy Adames and Matt Chapman, who have major upside to drive him in. Both those guys struggled through the beginning of the season. Both those guys have major upside for power. Chapman's been lacking in his usual barrel rate so far this year, but he's turned it on a little bit recently. He's up to 7 home runs, getting on at a 330 clip, 104 WRC plus. Very, very playable for a cheap price for who he is. Adames at 34, at 28. Feels shortstop, perfectly fine. He's not getting on base with any kind of consistency. Doesn't draw walks. Doesn't succeed a lot on his balls in play. 27.6%. Strikes out too much. That's just who this hitter is. But he's hit 13 homers. He's at least playable. Drew Gilbert, Daniel Susac down the bottom of the lineup. Susac strung together 109 okay plate appearances for batting average. Okay on base percentage, but there's nothing to talk about over here for either of those guys, really. And there's nothing to talk about in how he's actually contacted the ball. That's just a mixer piece at the bottom of the Giants lineup. Larry says Ortiz was clutch too. Yeah. So what I'm actually saying there, right, is there's just not enough sample. It's the exact same as BVP, right? You're talking about a handful of clutch situations that stand out in memory. And it's you can play with that number so much just by how you define it, that you can make a lot of different people look really, really clutch or less clutch than they were, just depending on how you gauge that sample. And there are guys who are undeniably, just like with BVP, there are guys who literally do actually own pitchers. They see the ball well. They know this pitcher so well that they can guess what he's going to throw next with a degree of reliability. But there's nothing that we can put numbers on to quantify that. And the samples, when you're talking about 12 plate appearances, 18 plate appearances over time, over multiple years in which the players change, there's nothing we can really string together to put numbers on that. And it's the same for how many times did this guy come up in the bottom of the ninth, 2 outs, bases loaded, et cetera, et cetera. Is that how you define clutch? Or is it, we're down by 4 and this guy doubled, drove in 1 run that maybe seemed inconsequential, but was actually crucial to winning that ball game? Is that clutch? There's a lot of different ways to define it, and it just becomes increasingly hard to put any kind of reliable numbers on it because the samples, again, are 50 plate appearances that ultimately mean nothing. You're just cherry picking when you talk about stats like that. And there would be, even with that, nothing predictive. Again, small sample is entirely unpredictive. You can cherry pick 50 plate appearances from literally anybody in their major league career ever and find good stretches and just say, this guy was great. But you're playing with, lies, damn lies, and statistics, as they say. And with that in mind, this has been your DFS show. 6:08 on the clock, went a little longer than I was planning, 2.5 hours. Appreciate everybody who's hung out. Really interesting slate, guys. I really like this one. I like the potentially hidden power upside. I'll get that Griff Canning pitching change taken care of. We'll confirm that it actually is Griff. Not taking a pitcher away, but maybe knocking the Braves bats down slightly. But I still really like that as a target. My hope is they go a little bit even lighter owned than maybe they would have otherwise. Everybody down, let's say, below Kyle Leahy, I think you're just looking at targets for bats. I don't really like any of those options as far as a pitcher on the mound, even at price. Maybe you get away with J.R. Ritchie against San Diego at 67 out of the bargain bin. Sean Burke is going to be ludicrously popular at 7,000, the go-to SP2 of the day, in the go-to pitching spot of the day, because his opponent is at the top of the board, and probably at the top of the board on everybody's site. Wróblewski, a little bit playable, 10-6, concerning price there, 88, much more in play on DraftKings, I would say. I would say this is a dramatic overprice on FanDuel that's just reflecting his ERA, which is overperforming his xFIP and Sierra by about 2 runs. So be worried. Wouldn't shock if the Twins bent that day in an awful hurry. In a lot of ways, Sonny Gray is actually your second best pitcher on the slate, despite pitching at Coors. Reasonably good projection. Going to be lower owned compared to a lot of other options. I do like Shane Baz with the discount included. Strikeouts available in that lineup. Needs to probably go that 7 innings that he's been putting up recently. As much as I just talked about targeting Robbie Ray with the probably under-owned Athletics team, he's at least on the board, given a good version Robbie Ray day and what that can look like and the strikeout upside that carries. So I don't want to undersell that. He's appropriately priced. 8,000, 7,800 includes a lot of room for danger, includes a lot of room on FanDuel, honestly, on a day like today at 8,000. Robbie Ray's got enough strikeout upside and enough upside to go 7 innings. Even if he doesn't get the quality start, 7 innings, 4-run ball, 5-run ball, he could still work out at that price if you drill the bats. Erod, playable. ECAB, less playable, but playable. Nice price difference between the two. Nick Lodolo, borderline. J.R. Ritchie, borderline. Senga, I don't think you get enough innings out of, and it's a dangerous Cubs team on the other side. Wandy going to open for San Diego? All right. Wandy's a multi-inning relief type. He could give you 2 or 3. Let's look at the recent work. So is it just a pure bullpen game? Have we heard that yet? We'll close things out there. That would be, honestly, if it's a multi-inning. If it's a multi-inning, Wandy. Oh, I clicked on Wandy Rodriguez instead of Wandy Peralta. Didn't realize we'd had another Wandy. Major League Baseball has had a Wandy, a Windy, and a Waddy. Windy McCall and Waddy McPhee. Windy McCall played from 1948 to 1957, and Waddy McPhee, played from 1922 to 1922. So, to the point, Peralta this season, a 1.91 ERA, over 37 2/3 in 32 games. 2 starts where he opened like this, but a 4.77 xFIP under the surface. Low strikeout, 15% strikeout, 11.5% walk. His pinnacle in Major League Baseball was 22.5% strikeout pitching in relief. That came with a 13% walk. He's definitely vulnerable to those bats as well. Lefty, potential multi-inning. I would expect probably 2. He's pitched into a second inning in most of his outings. Although he did only throw exactly 1 inning in both of his opening appearances. Wouldn't shock me if he came out for a second inning before handing off, though, especially if it's a low-end pitcher like Canning that he opens for. If it's a bullpen game, we'll see. Kind of a dice roll. Nothing to play on the mound, but just keep an eye on where Braves bats go. We'll get that updated in the next little bit. Clintwood will be at work tomorrow. He'll pop in if he can, if anybody's looking for Clintwood. Hopefully the troll has a job too, he says. Larry says, Clintwood, you're going to Vegas. You can admit it. Don't you wish? Reg Kell says, I see Canning being primary. We'll sort it out. I got a little bit of time. I got to get an update in. Got to let Joker out. Got to let the cat out of the other room. But we'll get this updated in the next couple of minutes. All the bats will get updated in the next couple of minutes, gang. Make sure you answer the home run picks contest. Come on back in just a second after the show ends. Leave a comment on the show. 1 pick per person. Got to use the same YouTube handle every single day. Cannot use my home run pick of the day, which again was Colton Cowser from the Baltimore Orioles. Love the upside for the O's to hit for a lot of power against that pitcher today. Win yourself a free month of rotoscouts. 1st to 5 wins the free month. If there's multiple people getting to 5 on the same day, you all win it. Leaders are currently 2 people tied at 3, 3 people tied at 1. Nobody else has a correct pick yet. That's about it. Larry C says, I have a new YouTube name, Fat Jacket. I guess the troll got tired and you gave up. Anyway, gang, let me get out of here. Let me get stuff updated for you. Good luck out there tonight. Somebody go win something. Oh, by the way, make sure you grab a free week at rotoscouts. They're wide open anytime. First week is free. First week is on us. We want you to get behind the scenes and check out the quality behind the paywall. I think you'll be pretty happy with what you find. We'll renew at regular price, if not canceled in between when you sign up and after a week. Cancel anytime at your discretion. You will get no charge. There is no commitment. Wide open. Give it a test drive. Promo code is TRYME is scrolling across your screen right now. Capital T, capital M, all one word on a weekly at checkout. 100% free first week. Give that a look. I'm out of here, gang. Good luck out there. Somebody go win something. Share the results when you do at rotoscouts on Twitter. Premium Discord linked in the description below. See ya.